Join Coach Harvey Hyde and Chuck Hayes Saturday evenings from 9 to 10 p.m. for Trojan Football Report, presented by South Point Hotel and Casino, here on 101.5 FM and 720 AM KDWN, where Las Vegas comes to talk. Travis Scribner, managing partner of Westpac Wealth Partners, interviews some of the most successful business owners for insight into what makes both them and their business run. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN, or podcasts on iTunes.
I'm attorney Paul Powell. A lot of lawyers promise a lot of things. No fee unless we win. The consults are free. Of course they offer that stuff. All lawyers do that. But will they promise not to take more money than you at the end of your case? No. When you call me, that answer's yes. I'll never take more money than you, and I put it in writing.
Call 728-5500 or go to paulpowell.com.
I really can help.
Paul Powell.
More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of the president. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Oh, yeah. Glad you can join us on a Thursday. Coming at you live, baby. Even during all this crap with the coronavirus, we're still giving you a live radio show coming at you from the Seawin household. Glad you could be with us. A lot to get to today. A lot to go over. Been wanting to get the Clark County Commissioner on the show for a long time, and she's agreed to come on with us. Her name is Marilyn Kirkpatrick. She actually has some say and oversight when it comes to the Las Vegas Strip, unlike our mayor. So she's going to be joining us. Plenty of questions to get to with her about the budget and about her opinions on the Las Vegas Strip. When does she think we should reopen the Strip? Darcy Spears from ABC 13 will be joining us. She's got a very cool antibody testing study that she's going to talk to us about, and a lot more to get to. As I said, a lot to go over. Want to share the breaking news with you, all of you that are in the state of Nevada. This is important. Our Governor Sisolak, is going to be speaking at 3 p.m. today. And what we have learned is he is going to be opening up phase 1 in this transition, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, earlier than May 15th. Originally, he said, estimating around May 15th, but now we are learning that, and I don't have a date for you, but he is going to open up phase 1 sometime before May 15th. That is all I know, and we are probably going to get a specific date, I would imagine, from the governor at 3 p.m. today. Now, what does phase 1 mean? Well, it's described as a transition from the community mitigation to case-based interventions. It could include reopening small businesses and some retail with strict social distancing measures in place. People would still be encouraged to stay at home, especially vulnerable populations, and gatherings of more than 10 people would still be prohibited. Nevada would then examine COVID-19 data 2 or 3 weeks after reopening decisions become effective to determine the next steps following guidance provided by Johns Hopkins University. So again, that is all the information we have. That is the latest information, and I would advise everybody to watch his remarks, which are planned and scheduled to be at around 3 p.m. today.
And I don't think that timeline, that 2 or 3 weeks, evaluating each phase is going to stick up. Brian, right now, Nevada has 5,996 cases, and only 1,180 of them are active. That is the lowest active caseload in the country by far for any state with over 1,000 cases. Right now in Nevada, for every single one active case, there are at least 3,500 jobs that have been lost. Steve Sisolak is getting destroyed on all types of social media. He is getting destroyed by the city council. people are turning on him left and right in Nevada, and they should be doing so. At this point, for a local business to be shut down, in my opinion, it's unconstitutional. It is an intentional effort to stifle the economy and that particular business by itself, and it could be considered a civil crime. You could see lawsuits coming out of this in the near future, in my opinion. And after what happened in New York City, where 66% of 1,300 hospitalizations were found out to occur at home. I mean, these people, they didn't go to public transit. They didn't go to the store. Many were retired. Many were unemployed. And they still got this virus. This virus is going to run its course. And right now, we are doing more good. We're doing more bad than good.
Let me just
by all this excessive mitigation. Let
me just quickly interject.
And I'm thankful that Sisolak is finally coming around, and hopefully it's not too late.
Let me just quickly interact. Saying that it's a civil crime to me is completely ridiculous. Let me explain to you why. That would be like saying every single governor in the country is doing the exact same thing, because they've put their ordinances and they put the same stuff in place. To say, I guess you're saying that every governor in the country, it's a civil crime. That's completely absurd. If I could just finish, that's, in my personal opinion, that is completely absurd. Number two, make no mistake about it. The governor's decision, whether it's May 14th or May 10th, whatever the case may be, I can assure you, has absolutely zero to do with social media. He's not making decisions on social media, and he's not making decisions because maybe some in the city council are putting a little bit of pressure on him. Hold on. He's making decisions based on the experts, based on Johns Hopkins University, based on the experts and the people that are surrounding him. He's not making decisions based on people on social media. He's not making decisions because some people think he's committing crimes. He's not making decisions because some people are comparing him to Adolf Hitler. He's making decisions on the experts. It's very, very simple. There is no civil crime that Governor Sisolak has committed. That is absurd. There's not one logical attorney that would agree with me on that.
There are several logical attorneys that would and have agreed and will likely be filing suits in the near future.
They're not going to win because that's completely idiotic.
I completely disagree with you on this.
Well, all right. Well, I'll make a bet with you. I'll make to jail.
Okay. Well, going to jail is totally different in a civil suit. In a civil suit, there are other recourses.
Well, I guess every governor.
Besides jail time.
Then I guess every single governor.
Again,
hold on a second.
Nevada's economy is totally different than every other economy in the United States.
Okay. So because of that, he's committing a civil crime? That doesn't make any sense.
And I'll give one more source outside of social media. There was a poll done by Channel 8. It was on social media, but 13,000 votes were taken, and 60% opposed the way the governor has handled this.
Okay, so that means it's a civil disobedience because 6,000 people voted that they're opposed to the way he's handling it?
What I'm saying is people are turning on the governor left and right, and he is finally starting to realize that.
Okay, well,
and again, I'm thankful that our economy will be somewhat open soon, but considering the numbers compared to the rest of the country, again, of states with over 1,000 cases, total infected cases of COVID-19, we have by far the lowest active case rate.
Okay,
and for every one active case, there are almost 4,000 people that don't have jobs right now.
I know. We've talked about this.
Those numbers are harrowing.
Okay, but saying that and then saying they're committing a civil crime, I just want to be on the record as saying I think that's completely ridiculous. But I do want to talk about what took place in Georgia in February, which is second most trending story on Twitter. And if it wasn't for the coronavirus, this is George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin times 5. This is a very serious story, and it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be discussed. If you really want to talk about a civil crime, it's not what Governor Sisolak has done. It's what, in my personal opinion, 2 white men did to an African American. Let me explain. His name is Ahmaud Arbery. Okay? It happened in Georgia. It happened in February. Arbery was a 25-year-old African American man. The only crime he had ever committed, as far as I know, is shoplifting. He spent much of his time running for exercise in the city of Brunswick, Georgia, southeast coast. This happened on February 23rd, which is quite a long time ago, by the way, might I add. Arbery was spotted jogging through his neighborhood. A man by the name of Gregory McMichael. He believed, and by the way, there's no evidence to support this, that Arbery looked like a suspect in a recent break-ins, according to a police report that was published by the New York Times. One of those burglaries was reported to the Glynn County Police Department January 1st and February 23rd. It involved a pistol taken from a pickup truck outside of McMichael's home. Again, no evidence that this guy, Ahmaud Arbery, was ever involved in that.
He didn't have cameras or anything like that?
No evidence. No evidence. Zero. McMichael is 64 years old, and his son Travis McMichael are 34 years old. They're seen on social media with pictures with moose. They hunted a lot. and they armed themselves with a handgun and a shotgun, decided to take matters into their own hands. Very important to note that Gregory McMichael, the father, at one point was a police officer. Not a police officer anymore. Not at all.
So he can't hide behind the badge.
No police officer, nothing. They chased Arbery in a truck. Chased him, okay? Like a police officer would chase a suspect in a car.
Right.
That's exactly what they did, and there's a video to prove it. Gregory McMichael told police that he shouted to Arbery, "Stop, stop, we want to talk to you." Arbery didn't have to talk to anybody. They're complete strangers. He doesn't know who these people are. According to the statements of the two white men that are still alive in this situation, they pulled up beside him in a truck. There's video that shows that. They basically bamboozled him. It was an ambush. That's basically what it was. It was an ambush. The video clearly shows that. And then the report suggests a third person may have also been involved in the pursuit. Well, of course, that's very, very possible in this situation. What happens next is so troubling. And I don't know. I would imagine Ahmaud Arbery was scared.
Was this like an empty road? Was it a...
Yeah, let me just continue.
Okay.
I'll answer that. It wasn't an empty road, but let me just continue. Let me get through the story, and then we'll talk about it. What happens next is so troubling. The video shows him running, and then all of a sudden, a struggle with the son for the weapon. The son fires his weapon 3 times, striking Ahmaud, and then he hits the ground, and he dies. Now, I have no doubt that it could be a possibility where this kid, Arbery, engaged the kid with the gun. To me, that's here nor there.
Well, why wouldn't you?
I'm sure he was scared and frightened, and I don't blame him. The father's seen in the pickup truck taking out his pistol. These two dummies, these two criminals, and I don't think it's a stretch to call them murderers, followed this kid for no reason. They could have just called the police. They did call 911, and then when the 911 dispatcher asked them, well, what did you see this kid do? They didn't respond to that question. All they said was, it's a black man jogging down the road. That's what they said. They didn't even cite a crime that they thought he had committed. And even if they did, worst case scenario, you call the effing police. You don't follow someone and act like you are a police officer with a badge. Here's the issue I have.
Well, they didn't have lights on the top of their car or their truck, did they?
Completely academic whether they had lights or not. That has nothing to do with it. Even if they had the brightest lights in the world, they still have no right following this kid, acting like a police officer with weapons. And I'm tired of people that think they want to be cops like the George Zimmermans of the world, that think it's okay to act like a police officer. Here's what makes this even worse. If that's not bad enough, and yes, I do think it's murder. Now, whether you want to call it involuntary manslaughter, whatever the case, these two should be in jail. This father has connections to the Attorney General. He has connections to law enforcement. Police told this victim's mom that day that this kid, Ahmaud Arbery, was shot in a home invasion. They lied to the mother. They told the mother that he not only was in a house in a home invasion, but the home invader shot him in self-defense. Complete lie. They hid this under the rug, and I have no doubt the reason why they did it is because this guy, McMichael, has those connections in law enforcement. They never were arrested. In fact, they didn't even get so much as citing or a speeding ticket. Nothing. You get more accountability if you go through a stop sign. Now, what would have happened if this video wasn't released? I'll tell you what would have happened. These two would have never been arrested, and we wouldn't be talking about this story right now.
They would have most likely, if they did commit murder, and it sounds to me like they did, they both definitely did, premeditated, and I'll add to that, they would have most likely gotten away with it.
And this is the problem with society today. Would George Zimmerman be in jail right now if there was a video? Probably. We wouldn't be talking about this case if there wasn't a video. Why now are we now learning about this several months later? It's very simple. It's a simple explanation for this, and it's disgusting. That police department should be ashamed of themselves. The Attorney General should be ashamed of himself, and many have recused himself from this case. They tried to hide this story under the rug. They didn't want it to go public, but you know what? It did, and it's out there now. And I'm telling you right now, this is 5 times more potent than George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin. First of all, George Zimmerman is not white, and the media tried to portray him as being white. Make no mistake about it, these two men are white. Now, I don't agree with the language and the verbiage on social media. There are African Americans and minorities out there. They have a right to be angry. Make no mistake about it. But do not pinpoint all white people that would do something like this. And there are some people on social media saying, you white people, this is what you do. No, it's not.
Yeah,
these people do not represent me. They don't represent you, and they don't represent the majority of white people in this country. But make no mistake about it, these two white people belong behind bars. This was a lynching. Make no mistake about it. That's exactly what this was. It is a lynching. And these two dumbasses, murderers, belong behind bars right now. It's going to the grand jury right now.
And I would argue that every single, because it sounds like good old boys club, systematic racism from the top on down.
And by the way,
that's what it sounds like to me.
This city,
and everyone involved in that cover-up should, and I don't know if they should be going to jail, but they should certainly lose their positions, whatever those positions are.
This city has a history of racism, by the way. It does.
What's the population of the city?
I don't know the population.
It's Brunswick, right?
Yeah, I don't know the population. Here's what I do know. They hid this underneath the rug, and now it's going to a grand jury. My question is, and it's a very fair question, and it's what many in the African-American community are asking, why are they not in jail right now? Please tell me what would have happened, ladies and gentlemen, if these were two African-Americans with guns that chased after a white man. I'll tell you what would have happened. Those two African Americans would be in jail right now and probably facing 40 years. That's exactly what would have happened. It is the problem with society today. Now, do I think every city would handle it this way? No. Do I think everybody in America is racist? No. Do I think some are? Absolutely. And this is a perfect example of that. Now, there are some stories coming out. There might be a possibility that Ahmaud Arbery had some mental illness. There were stories that came out that he was seen looking through a house that was under construction. So what? It's not a crime. And even if he was mentally ill, that makes me even feel more sorry for the guy because he didn't know how to handle that situation, and he was probably very scared and very frightened. I feel horrible for his family and friends. We need justice. And I'm not talking about 2 or 3 years in jail for involuntary manslaughter. Put these bastards behind bars for 20 years. That's it. Lock up, put away the key, that's it. It's done.
And if he had mental illness, it wasn't debilitating because he was 25 years old. He was a former high school athlete. He was basically trying to keep himself in shape by just running around his neighborhood or running around his city on a consistent basis. It's not like he was, overly on the spectrum or something along those lines.
Well, number one, we don't know that. We don't know the extent if he had mental illness. Number two, I don't know what that has to do with him being lynched and killed. Whether he was mentally ill or not, it makes it just
I'm saying it's not an excuse.
What do you mean it's not an excuse?
It's not an excuse to say
I'm not saying the shooter was mentally ill.
No, I'm saying Ahmaud Arbery. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference that he's mentally ill. It's totally irrelevant in my opinion at this. But that shouldn't be some type of but he was mentally ill. Why would you make a statement like that to justify a murder? Is what I'm asking.
What do you mean? That's exactly the opposite of what I'm doing. I'm not saying
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the fact that that's even brought up, the mental illness. Why even bring up the mental illness?
Okay, here's the reason why I think it's if it is important to bring that up, because he may have acted a little bit irrationally. I'm not defending the two idiots. I made it very clear that I think they're murderers.
I can tell you, if two strangers, one of which was 64, one of which was 34, one had a shotgun, one had a gun, was pointed in my face, I would freak out too if I didn't know who they were.
Right,
I would go absolutely nuts.
And maybe even,
and I feel like 99% of the country would do the exact same thing.
And maybe even worse if you were mentally ill. That's why I bring that up. And I don't think it really has much of a bearing on the case. But we're going to learn more facts about this kid as we go on. But as far as I know, the idiots that are friends of the shooters that are defending them are saying that he had a shoplifting incident, which has zero bearing on this, by the way. What the hell does shoplifting have to do with this?
Well, and I believe it's a misdemeanor.
It doesn't even matter, though. It has absolutely...
And last I checked, misdemeanors don't exactly result in death.
But misdemeanor or felony, my opinion stays the same. What the hell are two people doing acting as police officers with guns? They're not police officers. Why are they taking matters into their own hands, trying to be the heroes here when they are nothing but ignorant buffoons, and now they're probably going to spend a lot of time behind bars? I'm going to tell you something right now. Unless some unbelievable evidence comes out that this kid had just committed a very serious crime, even if that's the case, which, by the way, I don't think it is, but even if that was the case, it still doesn't justify following someone with shotguns. It's disgusting, and I'm telling you right now, these guys are going to jail. I think the son is probably going to go to jail a little bit longer because he's the one who pulled the trigger. But the father's got to go to jail too because he took out a gun as well. And he was the one who's probably perpetuating this whole thing. And he thinks just because he was in law enforcement, he has the right to act like a police officer. It's a disgusting joke. And they do not represent white people across the country. Sadly, some, but not the majority. But this is just awful. And I'm telling you right now, if not for the coronavirus, this would be the headline on every news station across the country right now because it needs to be discussed. It needs to be talked about. And I pose this question again, JD. If these are two African Americans, just a different skin color, that are following a white guy, and the same thing went down, what do you think would happen right now? Where would those two African Americans be?
Most likely in jail.
Yeah,
most likely.
I think that's a
now,
pretty fair...
I do want to pose this question. If Mr. What's his name, Carmichael?
No, you're talking about McMichael.
McMichael.
If
Mr. McMichael was not connected to the Attorney General and didn't have the connections that he has, and he was Caucasian, but he wasn't a well-connected man, and this happened to him and his son, what do you think they would be? I think that a lot of this has to do with the fact that this particular person and his son have those high-level connections. And to me, that's scary because if something like this can happen, and again, you're right, if there wasn't a video at this point, we would know nothing about it because, again, it was reported as a home invasion. And under those circumstances, I'm sure that, self-defense, you can walk into someone's home, especially in a state like Texas, and you can shoot them if they come into your home if you think if you feel in danger or your property is in danger.
I don't think...
And so I think that... Under these circumstances, it's really scary. You have to ask yourself, how often does this happen across the country where someone who has high-level connections commits a crime, lies about it, and gets away with it scot-free where there's not video involved?
Here's your answer. If there was no video, these two wouldn't be facing anything. There'd be no grand jury. I'll answer it in two different parts. It's very simple. I'll give you two answers. There's two factors here. One factor is race, and nobody can deny that. There's race involved here, and there's racial bias, and there's racism. And the second one is what you just mentioned, the fact that this father used to be in law enforcement. He certainly has connections.
But he had friends in high places.
Sure, no question about that. But you can't...
That could change the narrative.
Absolutely, and I'm saying it has. But I'm also saying race is a factor. There's two factors here. And those two factors should never get involved in a fair investigation and justice for somebody because of the color of one's skin and because somebody used to be a police officer. We see this stuff happen all the time, particularly with people that are in law enforcement that break the law. We see it all the time. We see the videos on YouTube of a police officer who might be driving drunk that get out scot-free because they have a badge, and I'm tired of it. Police officers, whether you're formerly in law enforcement or currently in law enforcement, should be held to even a higher standard than regular citizens that are not in law enforcement. This is disgusting. And the fact that this guy was in law enforcement speaks volumes about some of the people that are in law enforcement today. Not the majority of them. I think the majority of people in law enforcement are great people. I think they're heroes. But there are some in law enforcement that are really bad apples. We need to get those bad apples out. Get them out.
Drain the swamp.
And I feel so horrible for this young man's family. I can't imagine the pain they've gone through. I thank God that there's somebody that had a video of this, because I guarantee you there'd be no accountability if there was no video. And the fact that police, and by the way, I don't believe police officers knew there was a video right away. And that's probably why they lied to the mother and they staged something that did not happen. There was no home invasion, and make no mistake about it, there was nobody in a home that shot this kid. There is video right there for you to see it, folks, if you don't believe me. Right there for you to see it.
And where did the video come from, Brian?
Dash cam. It came from a dash cam. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take your phone calls on this. What do you think should happen to these two people? 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Do you think that these two who lynched this kid, in my personal, maybe you disagree with me, I think it was a lynching. What do you think should happen to these two white guys who murdered this black man, this black kid? 702-257-5396. Your calls on the other side of the break. This is the Vegas Take.
And sponsored by Open Jar Concepts. Consult your physician prior to discontinuing use of any medication.
Right, it was a dash cam.
Attention.
Yeah.
This is an important message to anyone who has been diagnosed with cancer after prolonged use of Zantac or other heartburn medication. Recently, the FDA has warned that Zantac and other medications containing the heartburn drug ranitidine may be contaminated with cancer-causing agents. This announcement has been followed by drug companies recalling their generic ranitidine and Zantac products, while drugstores are pulling these products from their shelves. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with cancer after using Zantac or other heartburn medications regularly, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Call 800-416-1962 now for a free legal consultation and to see if you're eligible to file a claim. Time restrictions may apply, and you pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. So call 800-416-1962 now. Again, 800-416-1962. That's 800-416-1962.
Special report coronavirus update. The president and vice president have both tested negative for the coronavirus after a military valet who works at the White House tested positive. More from White House correspondent Caitlin Collins.
The valets are members of this elite military unit. They're dedicated to the White House, and they work very close to the president and the first family as well. We're told by sources that the president was upset when he was informed yesterday that a valet had tested positive. The president was then tested after that. The White House says he's negative.
The White House says it rejected the CDC's guidance for reopening the nation because it was too prescriptive. One CDC official says they were told the report would never see the light of day. Add 3 million more Americans to the unemployment lines from last week. April jobless numbers out tomorrow could show an unemployment rate as high as 20%. On Wall Street, the Dow up about 400 points. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Letterman Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Geico. Watch for slowing for the crash reported Desert Inn at Buffalo. Avoid delays. Take an alternate route you could use, Spring Mountain or Sahara instead. And also a crash reported on Valley View just north of Sahara. And that's going to be at El Camino and Valley View. Use an alternate. You could use Arville as a good way to get around that one. Road work continues on Craig Road near Lamb Boulevard. Geico has introduced a Geico Give Back, a 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies for current and new customers that lasts the full policy term. Visit geico.com/giveback for info and eligibility. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This station is conducting a weekly test of the Southern Nevada, Inyo County, California Operational Area Emergency Alert System. This is only a test.
This is a commercial announcement. America needs to go back to business soon, but in states like New York and California, the lockdowns could last months. Now, Newsmax TV is conducting an urgent national poll asking if you agree with lockdowns across the country. The Newsmax poll is also asking Americans what President Trump should do next. So let your voice be heard and vote in Newsmax's poll. It's simple to vote. Just text the word PRIME to 39747 now. That's PRIME to 39747. And then vote instantly, letting President Trump, Congress, and the media know your opinion. And don't forget to watch Newsmax TV. It's the fastest growing cable news channel in America in 70 million homes. Find Newsmax TV on DirecTV 349, Dish 216, Xfinity 1115, Spectrum, Cox, Optimum 102, Uverse 1220, Fios 615, Suddenlink 102, CenturyLink, WOW, and more. Tune in to Newsmax TV. And don't forget to vote in the Newsmax poll on the lockdowns and Trump. Just text the word PRIME to 39747. That's 39747 today.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro talking about the Ahmaud Arbery case where two white men decided to take matters into their own hand. Travis and Gregory McMichael. It happened in Georgia, following this African-American kid who did absolutely nothing wrong as far as we know, with a shotgun, with several guns, and it was a lynching. They shot him, they murdered him, and it took police 2 months and for a public outcry for it to go to a grand jury. It is absolutely disgusting.
Unacceptable.
It's despicable in my opinion, and we're taking your phone calls on that. What do you think should happen to these two men? Hey, maybe you're one of those people that want to offend these two guys. I think they, my personal opinion, I think they hunted down this kid like he was an animal, just like they do with their stupid hunting with their mooses and whatever else they shoot, and they treated him just as such. That's exactly the way they treated this kid, as far as I go. They treated him like an animal, like a deer, like a hunt, and that's exactly what happened. You ever watch the movie The Game with Ice-T? That's who these two guys are. These two guys are the ones that were trying to shoot Ice-T. They made it a sport. That's my personal opinion on exactly what took place. We're taking your phone calls, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off with CJ. CJ, you're first up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, CJ?
What's up, fellas? What an honor to be the first one. Yeah, what I think should happen, man, they should be in jail for life. No 20 years, no 5 years for life. Put them in jail for life.
Okay.
The dad, because he's just as guilty.
All right. No, listen, I understand why you would. CJ, hang on for a second. CJ, I understand why you would say that. Trust me, I have just as much anger as you do. But I think here's the problem, CJ, and you can tell me if you disagree with this or not, okay? I look at the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case, and I think if they tried to convict him on involuntary manslaughter, he'd be in jail right now. Instead, they went for the murder charges, and it was very difficult to prove. I think in this case, it might not be. I could be wrong. But I think sometimes it's hard to prove murder. It's hard to prove premeditated murder. And here's what I'm afraid of, CJ. I'm afraid that if they go for life in prison without parole, they go for the murder charges, I'm worried that they might not convict these guys. Do you see does that make sense?
Yeah, CJ, I think murder.
Perfect sense. I really didn't think about that because what you could prove in court.
Yeah, but
that makes perfect
still,
sense.
the fact that they weren't.
Murder, yeah, that's why you said manslaughter.
Right, but CJ, make no mistake about it. I want these guys just like you to be in jail for the rest of their lives. I'm not defending them. I hope you understand that. I'm just saying, I just want what they can prove in court, and I'm afraid that the same thing could happen with George Zimmerman.
I'll tell you what, man. It sounds like murder one to me. Under false pretenses, under false pretenses, because they're saying, "Oh, we thought that he did this."
All right, well, let me ask you this.
But they're not in a position to think that. Even if they do think that, what are they going to do? A citizen's arrest with absolutely no evidence whatsoever? I mean, they get in a truck, they chase this guy down in the truck with guns while he's not armed.
Okay, but
it's murder one.
Here's where they're going to have a problem with murder one. Hear me out on this, both of you guys. If, in fact, and it appears as though, and I don't blame him, but Ahmaud Arbery started the physical confrontation. If Arbery starts the physical confrontation and these McMichaels didn't shoot before that, it's going to be very difficult to prove murder because then you could have the self-defense claim. I'm not feeling for these guys, and I hope they do get charged with murder and convicted. I'm just saying, based on the circumstance, it'll be very difficult in a court of law to prove murder if in fact, this kid went after the gun.
So you're saying, say they chase him down, they pull up to him, they're looking down on him with two different guns. He attacks both of them.
I'm not
defending them. And they kill him in self-defense. Is that what you're saying? Despite the fact that they have weapons and he doesn't?
I'm not defending them. What I am simply saying is based on the law, it'll be tough to prove murder if, in fact, this kid grabbed the gun first.
I don't know, someone who isn't law enforcement chasing actually two people in a vehicle chasing someone down on foot with weapons with an excuse to do so and then covering it up after the fact. I feel like murder one's a pretty clear charge here.
Let me be very clear here. I do believe they are both murderers. I'm not trying to argue or debate you on this. All I'm saying is, what can you prove in court? And that is the question that we have to ask ourselves. I don't want it to be a George Zimmerman situation all over again where maybe they go for too much and they don't go for the manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter. I think you got to go the manslaughter route here. But again, we need more information.
You also got to keep in mind that this city is going to be reeling from this for a while. They're going to want to do whatever they can to get this taken care of. And you're going to see some civil unrest and some riots.
Absolutely.
If it's not taken care of quickly.
Absolutely. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Nate. Nate, you are next up on the Vegas Take. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Nate?
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
I did want to point out that the travesty would be no conviction at all, so I definitely understand where you want to have a conviction of some sort.
Right.
I would like to point out that the physical confrontation starts with the pursuit, not necessarily the engagement.
Sure, and I understand that, but and I get it. Again, the point I'm just trying to make, sir, is that if, in fact, the first physical fight started with Arbery, and by the way, I don't blame him for starting it. In no way, shape, or form am I doing that. I'm just saying it might be difficult to prove murder charges in court. I'm not, again, I want to be very clear on this. I'm not defending these McMichaels. I think they're a bunch of Klan members who lynched this kid. That's what I think. I just want to make sure they get a conviction here. I don't want to see George Zimmerman all over again. Make no mistake about it. The reason why George Zimmerman is not in jail right now is because the prosecutors took to the pressure and tried to convict that kid of murder. Because of that, he was never convicted.
And Brian, I don't think the country wants to see another George Zimmerman situation, especially with just the massive
Well, look,
reaction.
there's some idiots that are
came
defending.
from it.
There's some idiots that are defending these McMichaels, sir. I'm sure you're not one of them. But do you see where I'm going with this? Though I want to make sure they get convicted. You know what I mean?
No, I want them to get convicted more so than anything else. I mean, obviously, even a lesser conviction, and they do get out, let's say 5 years later, the court of public opinion is still going to be judgment upon them. Again, when you talked about the physical confrontation starts with the pursuit, unless we find out there's something else prior to that.
I agree with you.
Especially if they don't have the jurisdiction, the illegal ability to actually do that, because he's not a current police officer.
We need to be clear here on this one. And again, I'm not defending McMichaels, the McMichaels. I'm not defending George Zimmerman. Here's where they broke the law. They didn't break the law by necessarily following him. They broke the law by ambushing him. They parked their car in front of him. They stopped their car right in front of him in the road. If you want to follow somebody, sadly, you're allowed to do that. There's no laws that say you're not allowed to follow somebody. But there is a law that says you're not allowed to stalk anybody. You're not allowed to, pull your car over and not allow this kid who, by all intents and purposes, was just jogging down the road. That's where the problem was. I don't blame this kid for, being very scared and frightened. I don't know how I would have reacted in that situation. But the fact that these two white guys, who I think are no better than the Klan, maybe even worse, because not all Klan members commit murder. The fact that they called 911 and they couldn't give a reason why they were really following him. They didn't give a reason until after the fact in the police report.
They called him after this happened or before?
They called him as they were following. They called the police. My understanding is that in that phone call, the 911 dispatcher said, "What crime did you see this kid committing? What did he do?" And they didn't respond to it. They didn't give an answer. All they said was African-American male jogging down the street, which is totally absurd. And it's very important to note there is absolutely no evidence.
I mean, that is a definition of racism.
There's no evidence to support the fact that this kid did anything wrong. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Malik. Malik, what's going on, my man? What are your thoughts on this?
Hey, what's up, Malik?
This hurts me to the gut, to the core. The feelings that LeBron was expressing is basically, it's like we're hunted. I mean, a lot of, like Trayvon Martin, the same thing occurs, and that's why I can say this could have been my son, because I'm a 60-year-old man. This could have been my son just going for a jog. These two people were definitely racist, and the fact that he was jogging, and they said that they were trying to do a citizen's arrest. It's alarming, man. This is scary, man. And the fact that this happened in February, and they just now putting it out in public. These guys have been home eating dinner.
Let me tell you something.
You're totally right.
My feelings on these two wouldn't be any different, but if they arrested those guys immediately and they were in jail right now and they were facing charges, I would have said good for the police department for doing their job. I would have commended them for it. My feelings would have, but the fact is we're talking about the complete opposite here. We're talking about they lied to the mother. They said this was a home invasion. This wasn't a home invasion. They said somebody in the home shot this kid. That was a lie. That didn't happen. The guy who, McMichael, the guy who used to be in law enforcement, he also lied. And then you have some of his ignorant defenders who are also part of the Klan probably, who told members of the media that about some sort of shoplifting incident, as if that's an excuse to follow somebody and commit a murder.
As well as mental illness for explaining the actual physical confrontation.
Even if everybody has mental illness, and apparently they do as well because they're murderers.
Of course, yeah.
What bothers me is that the police officers on the scene
right.
arrest these two guys.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah, the scariest part to me is the fact that this was able to be covered up because of one guy's connections and the race of the person that was shot. That to me, outside of the fact, we know there's racists in the country. We know that. Obviously, there's extremists of all kinds. But the fact that these people are connected up the totem pole to be able to actually totally change a narrative to avoid getting in trouble, that to me is the scariest part.
Malik, let me ask you a question. As an African-American man yourself, I want to ask you this. I'm coming from the standpoint of I want to make sure that these two go to jail. I want to make sure they're convicted of something. Listen, in a perfect world, I would hope that they would be in jail for the rest of their life. I just think we need to all be honest with ourselves. That's not going to happen here. I don't think that's going to happen. So what charges do you think? See, I don't think so.
And I'm gonna tell you why. It's like Stretch. Just like remember your guest Stretch, the big tall guy.
Yep.
What he's saying, what's happening is systemic racism.
Yep.
You would think that when they go to the jury has to be the ones that are his peers, right? These two officers. I mean, these two guys.
All right, let me ask you another question then. Based on that theory, I hear what you're saying. Based on that theory, let me ask you another question. What would you rather have? Get these guys 10 to 15 years each in prison, guaranteed, or run the risk of having them scot-free because you want to try to get them on double murder charges, life in prison? What would you rather have right now? See, I'd rather guarantee them 15 years behind bars. That's where I'm coming from.
I'd rather, if I was his father, I'd rather hunt these guys down and put a hit on them and just do the old-fashioned way.
Well, I can't condone that.
Which very well could take place.
I can't condone that, but I will say, yeah.
That would be the proper justice.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I've been a firm believer of if you rape somebody, cut off somebody's penis. As far as I'm concerned, if you, I've always felt that way. The problem is, I
believe they do that in Saudi Arabia, don't they?
They might. But listen, Malik, I hear where you're coming with this. I mean, I'm with you. Obviously, I'm on your side. It's horribly sad. I appreciate your phone call, Malik. Thank you for calling in, as always. Look, this is a very emotional situation. I feel horrible for this kid's family. I just want to make sure that there's justice here. I want to make, and by the way, he's right. There'll never be justice, There'll never be justice. 702-25... Well, I think we lost him there. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 257-5396. Let's go to Brady. Brady, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. The problem is, here these guys thought there was a burglar running down the street. And a lot of these rural communities, you don't have time to have or wait for the sheriff to come out. So they took it into their own hands. They chased this guy down and trying to, make him stop, and the kid ran and tried to grab the gun. That's where the problem was.
No, I disagree. So you think so you have no problem with people taking matters into their own hands, acting as police officers when they're not with guns, chasing somebody down and ambushing somebody. You have no problem with that?
No problem at all. I live in the desert, and like the sheriff says, when he comes out to my house, the Mojave County Sheriff Department, when he comes to my house,
right? Yeah.
Been burglarized, he says to get a big dog.
So you're blaming. So I just want to make sure I got you right. You're blaming. Hold on.
He's blaming the local police department.
Hold on. No, but I don't care about what happened 2 weeks ago. We're talking about this case. I don't care. We're gonna stick on this case, Brady, because that's what we're talking about. You're blaming. Okay, hold on. Listen for a second. I'm asking you specific questions about this case. You're saying it's Ahmaud Arbery's fault, the 25-year-old who was gunned down. It's his fault because he engaged with the two guys that were chasing after him with guns. So you're blaming Arbery for what happened. Is that what you're saying?
I'm blaming the guy when he runs and tries.
Right. So you're blaming him. So you're blaming him.
It's a situation gone bad.
Wow, this is
all right. Now, Brady. So okay. So all right, Brady. So you blame Arbery for trying to not die by grabbing the gun because he clearly was. But listen. Now what about the police officers lying to his mother about what actually happened? Why do you think that happened?
I don't know. I understand that one.
Yeah.
How do you not understand that? You fully comprehend that. There was literally a totally different story. Hey, we're on the same side politically, but in this case, I think you're totally off base. But there's literally a different story created to justify the murder to protect this guy and his son. Now, why did they do that? If it was his fault.
I don't care about another story. No, we're talking about this specific incident, and we're trying to understand why you defend these two Klan members who lynched an African-American 25-year-old. Oh, really? Okay. Well, you know what? Here's why. I'll explain to you why. Here, I'll answer your question. I'll answer your question if you shut up for 5 seconds. Pot him down. I'll answer his stupid remark. Okay? Here's why I call them Klan members. Anybody who lynches an African American, who kills them, in this case, an innocent 25-year-old black man who follows them in a truck with guns and eventually murders a young man, you're damn right I'm going to call them a Klan member. And if you could find a worse word in the dictionary,
especially if they live in the South.
Yeah, and if you want me to, if you can find a worse word in the dictionary, I'll gladly call them that. They are murderers. They are racist. Make no mistake about it. You want to call them grand wizards? I'll call them grand wizards. They lynched this poor African American kid. And by the way, your pathetic excuse because you don't know the facts again, he did not commit a crime. Okay? He shoplifted years ago. He didn't commit a crime. So why don't we start there? They were wrong for chasing him down in the first place, and now we have a 25-year-old innocent African-American man that's dead. And of all people, I'm not surprised that you would defend these two bastards who killed this kid. You're a disgrace, Brady. Hang up on him, and I don't want him calling back. 702.
Horrible call.
257-5396 is the number to call. I just don't understand how anybody today, well, maybe I do understand.
But you've used the word Klan member quite a bit. You throw it around quite. But if there's any type of situation where that particular term is able to be used accurately, it is this one we've been discussing for the last 45 minutes.
Well,
you are totally spot on using that term under these circumstances.
It's amazing to me that there are people in society that are so racist. But I wonder what Brady would have said if there were two black men that were chasing a white man. I wonder, because I can guarantee you, by the way, with his stupidity, that he would have a completely different tone. We need to address these issues in society. Make no mistake about it. A lot of these officer-involved shootings, whether it's involving an African, this wasn't an officer-involved shooting, but I'm just saying in general, I defend police officers usually, because usually there's non-compliance. And I think that is a problem with, at times, with the African-American community. They defend not complying with a police officer. I think you have the best chance of getting out of a situation if you comply. This has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
Do you think that the police officers actually knew what happened, or do you think that McMichael and his son gave them a story that they relayed to the mother and kind of up the chain?
Well, you answered your own question.
Do you think that they just took McMichael and the son's word for it?
You answered your own question by talking to Brady. Why is it that the police officers lied to the mother? Why is it that we're just finding out about this video and the district attorney, the attorney general, why is it that they didn't release this video months ago? Why is it that it's now in public now? This happened months ago. Why did they lie? Why did they cover it up? Well, let's be honest about this. In general terms, why do people lie and why do people cover things up? Because they know something wrong was done and they don't want to deal with it. Okay, that's why. So there's your answer.
So you think yes?
100%. Police officers knew what happened. They knew that these guys should have never gone after this kid to begin with. And then things escalated. Am I going to blame Ahmaud Arbery? Am I going to blame him for being scared and trying to defend himself? I don't know how I would react if I had two guys chasing me in a car with guns. I would either try to run to high heaven or I would engage because I would feel like I have no other choice. I'm trying to save my own life.
I would get extremely angry. Adrenaline would run through my veins, and I would try to murder them both. I'm guessing. I don't know. Even if I didn't have a weapon.
I really don't know how else you...
Because that is a crazy situation to be a part of. You're jogging down the road, two guys in a truck who happen to be Caucasian and you're African-American, pull up. One has a shotgun, one has a handgun. They stop in front of you, and they accuse you of doing something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no question. I mean, this is a story, luckily, that will not go away. It needs to be told.
You know, you mentioned 911. There were actually a couple 911 calls from people in the neighborhood that called 911 around the time that this chase was going on. I know you said that you had read there was one from the father. I have not seen that one, but we do have, Brian and JD, a very short 911 call from someone who witnessed Ahmaud in the neighborhood. And I think, Sean, you can play that.
No, it's all open. It's under construction, and he's running right now. There he goes right now.
Okay, what is he doing?
Running down the street.
All right, well,
that's got a little track on there, but basically what that guy was saying was there's a black man, and he's poking around a house that's under construction.
Which, by the way, last I checked, is not a felony. It's not a serious crime. If that is the case,
they said he was running across the street.
Yeah. If that is the case, it's not.
Did he jaywalk?
Yeah, exactly. It's not worthy of two people chasing him with guns. It's absolutely absurd. Worst case scenario, if you think that it's him or you think that somebody is acting suspiciously, you do exactly what I said George Zimmerman should have done. After you call 911, you call 911, you sit in your car, and you let law enforcement do their job. Actual, real police officers. You let them do their job. If they find him, great. If they don't, great. But we're not talking about a murder or a serious crime here. Somebody that was walking around a neighborhood and looking through maybe a house that was under construction, even if that is the case, that is not reason to chase after somebody with guns.
What can you steal from a house under construction?
Well, nothing. I mean, it's ridiculous. These people have nothing better to do with their lives. I see idiots. I see videos on YouTube every day of people calling the police on African Americans for doing absolutely nothing wrong. I see it every day. I saw a video the other day of an African American that was parked illegally, and this white lady comes up to him. He pulls down his window, and she's screaming and yelling at him to move. And and then she calls the police. I mean, some of these idiots have nothing better to do with their time than to be racist and to go after minorities for no reason other than the fact that they have a lot of hate inside their bodies. I don't know how these two buffoons were raised, but I'll tell you right now, I do hope they go to jail for life. I'm telling you right now, I don't think that's going to happen. There is a ton of pressure on the prosecutors in this case, a ton of pressure. And this is not going to be George Zimmerman all over again. I do believe these two men are going to go to jail. I think the son is probably going to go to jail a little longer. Sometimes you could look at people, and I hate to do that, to look at somebody and say, you know what, they look like really dumb people. I hate to stereotype, and I hate to do that. But I'm looking at a picture.
In this case, it's okay, Brian.
Yeah, in this case, with the father and son who are seen with a dead moose, and they were hunters, and I'm seeing their faces. They just look like really dumb people. Very ignorant people. And the father, the fact that the father actually spent time in law enforcement, to me, it should scare everybody that we have people like this in society that are in law enforcement. And I'll say it again, I support the police. I think the majority of police officers are really good people. They're heroes, and they do a great job. But, if you're a citizen, I don't care what kind of experience you have had in law enforcement, and you act like this, they have to be set as an example. You call the police and you stay away. Let's just talk about if you're a semi-intelligent person and you think a crime is committed, what semi-intelligent person is going to chase after that? And by the way, there is still no proof that this guy Arbery was committing a crime. We still don't know that for sure. Even if he was, what was he doing? Jaywalking, like you said?
Sounds like jaywalking.
What was he doing? I mean, what really? I mean, let's call this for what it is. The fact that these two white men, and I'm saying white men because race did play a factor here. I don't like it, but when you have to call it out, you have to call it out. The fact that these two men right now are sitting in their homes, and I'm sure they're scared to death, and I'm glad they are. I'm sure they know they're in a lot of...
Brian, they're terrified.
I'm sure they know they're in a lot of deep doo-doo.
The entire city is terrified.
Yeah, I'm sure they know. I'm sure they know. Honestly, if the father died of a heart attack today, I wouldn't feel any sorrow for him. I wouldn't.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly in good shape in the picture that I saw. But and how can you say it's not about race? When they talked to the police, they literally said it was a black man. I mean, they made it about race from the second. And what a situation like this does, especially when a cover-up takes place, it is so bad for racial relations across the entire United States. It sets us back. The Trayvon Martin situation, there was a little bit of ambiguity there, but with this, it's pretty cut and dry, and then you have law enforcement actually getting involved with the cover-up. That's a whole different animal.
Yeah, no question. Let's try to squeeze in one more quick phone call. Let's go to Carl. Carl, you're next up in the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Carl?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good, doing well.
Listen, first of all, I think it was a bad crime, obviously, but I feel that the people who lied, the people in authority, they should be charged with something, saying that he was shot by some homeowner, and he wasn't, and that's perjury and that's lying, and they should be charged with something. And my second point, I want to get this out of the way. I'm sick and tired of hearing people saying that this COVID virus is the same as the flu. 60, 70,000 people a year die from.
All right. Well, Carl, we'll definitely get to that coming up. We'll get to that coming up next segment. That's a different topic, but I appreciate the phone call. So coming up next, here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue, by the way, to monitor this story. We'll continue to cover it and give you the latest and breaking news. I think it's very fair to say that the majority of us, except for maybe some of the idiots out there, the racists out there, the majority of us want these two men. They want justice. Coming up next, Donald Trump responding to a nurse who says supplies are sporadic. We have the audio to prove it. Another chance to hear Trump with no empathy. We'll hear that coming up next.
This is Lorraine Hunt Bono, inviting you to tune in for Breaking Bread with Bono. Join my husband, Dennis Bono, as celebrities share with him their intimate and humorous stories. Saturdays, 5 to 6 p.m., right here on KDARN.
More lawyer, less fee. I'm attorney Paul Powell. Have you been injured in a crash? Do you want to win your case? Do you want the insurance companies saying, "It's Paul Powell"? Of course you do. I've spent almost 20 years helping injury victims get paid, and I for sure can help you.
If you're tired of greedy lawyers, call 728-5500 or go to paulpowell.com.
I really can help. Paul Powell. More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
Hey, are you ready to quit smoking? There's a free Nevada resource here to help you. Just call 1-800-QUIT-NOW from a Nevada area code.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Special report coronavirus update. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the White House shouldn't have buried it. CDC report providing guidance to the nation for reopening during the pandemic.
Now that there was a CDC report that had much more comprehensive guidelines, and they buried it in the White House. So again, what is our goal? Our goal is a healthy American economy. The route to that is to have the standards, testing, and again, not bury what the CDC is recommending.
The White House says it rejected the report because it was too prescriptive. Neiman Marcus, the 112-year-old storied luxury department store chain, is seeking Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. It is the first department store chain to do so and the second major retailer to be toppled by the coronavirus pandemic. I'm Mike Moss. China is firing back at Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's claim that there is enormous evidence that the coronavirus originated in a Chinese laboratory. Correspondent Stephen Jiang reports China calls the comments lies.
The Chinese government is challenging Mike Pompeo to present evidence on his claim that the virus may have come from a Wuhan lab, after calling the U.S. Secretary of State an evil and insane liar who now keeps contradicting himself.
The White House says President Trump and Vice President Pence have tested negative for coronavirus after finding out a member of the U.S. military who works on the White House valet campus had become infected. The CEO of Norwegian Cruise Line says the company's $3.5 billion in cash on hand will be enough to bankroll that company for at least another 18 months without any new revenue. On Wall Street, the Dow up 367. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Watch for slowing for the crash reported on Bonanza east of Eastern Avenue. Avoid delays. Use an alternate route like Washington or Stewart instead. Also a crash reported on Desert Inn at Buffalo. And police on scene for the crash at Valley View north of Sahara at El Camino. Use Arville to get around that one. Police are with the scene. No delays to report. I-15 north and southbound between the Spaghetti Bowl and Southern Beltway. Need to manage a changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at expresspros.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
It's open enrollment season, and Medishare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google Medishare and see if it's a fit for you. Medishare, healthcare you can believe in.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
These are worrisome times, causing a lot of stress and concern. And being in debt to the IRS can certainly make matters worse. Thankfully, there's good news. Optima Tax Relief can help you resolve your tax debt over the phone and online. Don't go it alone. Optima's tax professionals can reduce the stress in your life by helping resolve your IRS problems right from the comfort of your own home. Optima is America's most trusted tax resolution firm, having resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. And their award-winning team is ready to help you online and over the phone, even during these uncertain times. They'll stand between you and the IRS and fight to get you the best deal possible. All it takes is one call to start the process. Optima's tax associates are standing by. Take the first step toward putting your tax problems to rest. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-709-6011. That's 800-709-6011. 800-709-6011.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now more than ever, we need companies that have our back. Homey just launched in Las Vegas and is already saving us thousands in real estate fees, and now they're helping our community in partnership with United Way of Southern Nevada. For each home bought or sold with Homey, they are donating $500 to the United Way to provide rent and mortgage assistance. And if you have to sell your home because of COVID-19, Homey will rebate their $2,500 listing fee back to you. Text JD to 88588 to buy or sell with Homey. Homey really does have our back.
The world needs more heroes, more action-oriented do-gooders, more here's how I can help right-hand sidekicks. The world of sarcoma is no different. And if you're thinking, what is sarcoma? We're glad you're listening. Sarcoma is a rare cancer of the body's soft tissue and bone, and this cancer affects tens of thousands of Americans yearly. The Sarcoma Foundation of America partners with like-minded heroes to advocate for sarcoma patients through funded research and widespread awareness efforts. Learn how you can join forces at curesarcoma.org.
1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It's the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, we had one of our callers who was defending the McMichaels called into the show. I said he sounded like a Klan member. That bothered him more. He called back into the show, and that bothered him more, me calling him a Klan member, and he called that racist. That bothered him more than two white men killing an innocent black man. What does it say about that caller? Take your Confederate flag and shove it up your ass. Anyway, welcome back to the show. We got a lot to get to, a lot to go over, and I want to just bring some of the breaking news that we've been talking about locally, and that's Governor Sisolak. Governor Sisolak will be speaking at 3 p.m. today. The announcement, we don't have an exact date, but Phase 1 will start at some point before May 15th. He's going to give, I would imagine, he's going to give an exact date at 3 p.m. today. So that's some good news. And we'll wait and see what he has to say. And, of course, we will cover it all on the show tomorrow for you. Speaking of politics, speaking of the coronavirus, Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, back at it again, now showing a lack of empathy for a local hospital and for a nurse. Let me explain. He's responding to a New Orleans nurse who says the supplies that they have in their hospital are sporadic. Now, we know some hospitals are better off than others, but there are some hospitals, some nurses, that are struggling with supplies. We know that. That's a fact. That's 100%. Doesn't mean every hospital is struggling. That's not what she said. But she said some of the hospitals are struggling, particularly hers. She said the supplies are sporadic. And keep in mind that this was in the Oval Office on National Nurse Day. I want you to have a listen to how Donald Trump, the President of the United States, responded to her statement. Have a listen to this.
I think it's sporadic. As I talk to my colleagues around the country, certainly there are pockets of areas where PPE is not ideal, but this is an unprecedented time. And the infection control measures that we learned back when we went to school, 1 gown, 1 mask for 1 patient a day or per time, this is a different time. And I've been reusing my N95 mask for a few weeks now.
Sporadic for you, but not sporadic for a lot of other people.
Oh, no, I agree, Mr. President.
Because I've heard the opposite.
Sporadic for you, but not sporadic for a lot of other people. Again, that is a lack of empathy. What would someone in leadership say there? Well, we want to do the best we can to this nurse. We want to do the best we can to try to make sure that it's not sporadic in your specific hospital, and we're going to work with you to do that. That is what someone in leadership would say. Instead, what does Trump do? Well, it's to you, but not for everybody else. Again, that is a lack of empathy. It is a lack of leadership. And once again, that's why I call him just a horrible human being. Here you have a nurse on National Nurse Day in the Oval Office being honest with the American people, being honest with the president. She never said it's sporadic in every hospital. That's not what she said. You heard what she said. She said in her specific hospital, the supplies are sporadic. And instead of the president of the United States addressing the problem, what does he do? Wants to make himself look at, oh, that's you, but that's not everybody. That's just you. And if you're a Donald Trump supporter, how do you defend that? I mean, there's a lot of things I could say every day that, how do you defend? But in this specific situation, it took place yesterday on National Nurse Day. And once again, he's showing a lack of empathy. This nurse in front of the president, imagine what, the stuff she says maybe behind closed doors, but in front of the president and in front of the nation, she's saying that the supplies are sporadic. She has no reason to lie. She's being honest. She didn't say that it's happening. And by the way, she didn't just say her hospital. She said in sections across the country, there are some hot spots that the supplies are sporadic. That's absolutely factually accurate. Some hospitals are doing okay. Some hospitals are not doing okay. Just like there are some parts of the country that don't have a lot of deaths to coronavirus. Some parts of the country do. But again, it's the president of the United States responding the way he does. How often every day does he talk about the people that have died from coronavirus? How often every day does he say, I even give Mike Pence credit for this. How often does Donald Trump say, gosh, my thoughts and prayers, I really feel for those hurting families out there that have lost loved ones. I know that we're over 73,000 deaths. No, he talks about the ratings of his press conferences. He talks about what a great job he and his staff has done, how many lives he's saved. We hear this from the president every day. And yes, when he's not talking about cleansers that maybe you could inject in your ass, when he's not talking about, the ratings that he gets, when he's not talking about, crazy Joe Biden, now he's going after a nurse. To an extent, he is. That's exactly what he did. He's kind of saying, well, you're the victim, but others are not the victims. He's turning it on her and put her in a very awkward situation. It's very simple. I'm not the president of the United States, okay? But
you wish you were.
But one thing, no, I don't.
Because you like to script exactly what he should say.
No, I don't. Okay,
constantly.
So do you think he handled that right?
Of course not.
Okay,
no,
so you agree with me?
No, I don't. But I'm not. I think that the only way he makes a statement like that is if he actually thinks that he literally could do nothing to help that particular hospital.
Which is ridiculous.
Which obviously, considering the federal government that's what they do. That would not be the right.
By the way,
I think he handled that the wrong way.
Okay, so by the way,
and I'm not defending that, especially considering that it was National Nurses Day.
Okay, by the way,
he should have said something along the lines. And I don't do this very often. But he should have said something along the lines of, we'll try to fix that for you.
By the way, this is not a scripted answer. I'm just talking off the top of my head right now. I don't have speechwriters for me, and I don't have.
No, but you
hold on.
You like to decide. You like to nitpick what he says, and then create your own idea of exactly what he should have said.
Not true. Here's what I like. I like a president that shows empathy. So I'm going to give you a very empathetic answer that is not scripted. We're sorry that you're going through that, ma'am. You're one of our heroes. You're saving lives. I can promise you that my people are going to work with your hospital and all the hospitals across the country that have not the supplies that they need. We're going to do everything we can to help you. Thank you so much for what you do on National Nurse Day. That's all he had to say. Very simple. And by the way, you don't have to be, I'm not Albert Einstein here, okay? You just have to have just a little bit of empathy and be able to put two sentences together to respond appropriately there. I believe Mike Pence would have probably responded that way. I believe some others in Trump's administration probably would have responded that way. I believe Barack Obama would have responded that way. I believe George W. Bush would have responded that way. But our president has no empathy.
And you bring up Mike Pence. I think Mike Pence has done an outstanding job for
compared to Trump. He has,
as far as currying favor in the United States of America the last couple months since he's been leading this coronavirus task force. I mean, and you're right, he would have handled that in a more presidential style. But I've been very impressed with Mike Pence since day one in the way that he's handled both the media but also the entire process of getting all this different PPE and masks and ventilators to all these different states.
All right, well, I'm going to pull back on that a little bit. Last week, Mike Pence decided to go into a plant and not wear a mask when literally every single person, including the media, including his own administration, including the workers, were wearing masks. And he decided to go in there and show no leadership and show just how ignorant he is in that specific situation by not putting on a mask. And then instead of just owning up to it and apologizing, his own people said, well, it was our fault. We didn't tell him to put on the mask. And then we learned that any media that covered that, the own Trump administration and Pence own administration told members of the media, you are required to put on masks, but yet it is the vice president that didn't put on a mask. I don't think there's anything wonderful or great about that.
Okay, so
he and his people
since Pence made one mistake,
that's not just
it totally invalidates every single thing he's done and everything I just said.
No, I think I would invalidate.
So he has not been presidential. He has not handled the media well. He has not handled the process well because he didn't wear a mask one time at the Mayo Clinic.
No, that's not it. It's a very low bar and low standard with the way Trump handles situations and the way Pence handles situations. Pence has certainly handled these situations and these press conferences
Pence has been outstanding since day one.
I'm giving you my.
Has he made mistakes? Of course. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody is fallible.
Okay, I know you think Pence is outstanding, and I know you think Donald Trump is doing an A+ job.
He's been outstanding.
Okay, well, I know
since
that's how
he started.
Okay, I know that's how you feel. You think Pence, and if you had to give a grade to Donald Trump, you'd probably give him an A for the response. We disagree on all that stuff, but when it comes to Mike Pence, he is the enabler in chief, okay, in my personal opinion. When Trump talks about possibly injecting yourself with disinfectants, if Mike Pence was doing an outstanding job, the next thing he would have said was, well, I think Mr. President misspoke there. I don't think the president should have brought it disinfectant. He doesn't do that. He's an enabler. I'm not going to call somebody outstanding that's an enabler. 702-257-5396 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Again, that number is 257-5396. We're talking about Trump's response. We have this hero. Okay, make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. She is a hero. Any of those on the front line, the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, they're all heroes as far as I'm concerned. And we have a hero who's speaking in front of the media. She's speaking in front of the nation in the Oval Office on National Nurse Day. You heard it, the audio that we played, and she is saying that there are parts of the country where the supplies are sporadic. Now, if you want to hear this again, I want to play it one more time.
And was she in a hot spot herself, or where is she located? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is that the supplies, New Orleans?
New Orleans was a hot spot.
Yep.
Not anymore. Actually has a 25% positive, active current case rate.
But doesn't matter because she's saying that the supplies are sporadic in her own hospital, and I'm going to take her word for it. So I want to take phone calls at 257-5396. But before we take those phone calls, I want to play this audio again because I want you to hear it with your own ears, okay? Not just from me. This is a nurse talking about how the supplies are sporadic, and this is Donald Trump's pathetic response. Keep in mind, this is on National Nurse Day in the Oval Office. Have a listen to this.
I think it's sporadic. As I talk to my colleagues around the country, certainly there are pockets of areas where PPE is not ideal, but this is an unprecedented time. And the infection control measures that we learned back when we went to school, 1 gown, 1 mask for 1 patient a day or per time, this is a different time. And I've been reusing my N95 mask for a few weeks now.
Sporadic for you, but not sporadic for a lot of other people.
Oh, no, I agree with you, President.
Because I've heard the opposite.
Sporadic for you, it's tough for you, but it's not tough for a lot of people. It's kind of like saying, somebody that died of the coronavirus and a family is grieving. Well, it's tough on your family, but it's not tough for a lot of other people because their families are still alive. Make no mistake about it. That's exactly the correlation that I would make. The man has zero empathy. We're taking your phone calls. 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. Let's go to Dave. Dave, you are first up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Dave?
Hey, not much. Brian, I know you're going to disagree with me here because we already talked once about this, but I'm just going to say at this.
Dave, turn off your Obama phone, reset it, put it back on, and then you're welcome to call back.
That's a cliffhanger. Brian, I know we're going to disagree, and then it goes dead.
Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't.
Please call back.
I'm sure
on a non-Obama phone.
I'm sure he was going to criticize the president. Number to call again if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257-5396. Let's go to Steve. Steve, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Yes, thank you very much. Let's put it this way. That nurse, we don't know if she was just trying to show off our president. The fake media does that. There's always a bad apple in the fake media. We don't know if she's a bad apple. We're going to know this for sure. Trump is going to win again, and that's all that matters.
All right, so let me interject. Let me interject. Excuse me, sir. I'm not talking about. Okay, pod the idiot down. Pod the idiot down. Not talking about Barack Obama, Mr. Whataboutism idiot. You clown. We're not talking about Obama, number one. Number two, okay, if she wanted to show the president up, she wouldn't have agreed with him. The president in that statement said, oh, it's happening to you, but it's not happening everywhere else. She said, well, I agree with you, Mr. President. If she wanted to show him up, you dope, she would have said, no, Mr. President, I believe it's happening everywhere. So for you to attack, I think it speaks volumes, sir, about your character. I'm so glad you called. You're the type of person that if Donald Trump kidnapped your child, you would still defend him and say it's the media. That's you, sir. You're that kind of person, okay? You're the kind of person right now that is defending the president, not showing empathy, for a nurse who is saving lives every day and putting her line on the line for dopes like you. You're a disgrace. 702-257-5396 is the number to call.
Good call, Steve.
Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. All right, let's go back to Dave. Dave, what's going on?
Hey, Dave.
Okay, I'll try to get this out before my phone does something weird. I've been listening to Trump a lot, and I've been listening to the other guys. The big difference between Trump and everybody, and this is where Brian's going to say no, he's not a politician. He was not raised as a politician. So, yes, he makes some mistakes on how he says things, or he says some things wrong. I agree with you. The way he answered that wasn't right. But he doesn't have the polish of a politician.
Okay, so can I interject? Okay, I understand. I understand. Let me interject real quickly. By the way, we agree he's not a politician, but just because you're not a politician is not an excuse to not show empathy. You don't have to be a polished human being to show empathy for others. Do you understand where I'm going with that, sir?
He's a bit of a hardened New Yorker who was who was a lifetime businessman. I mean,
just because you're from New York doesn't mean
that is who Donald Trump is.
Let me tell you something. That's not true. I know a lot of people in New York that show
picked up a lot of national fame, literally firing people in various ways on that show, The Apprentice.
You guys are using excuses for lack of empathy.
Yes, it is. It's just
okay. Where he's from,
it's explaining who he is, and where he's a scumbag. He is not a lifetime politician.
Doesn't matter.
Who was for sale.
Okay, I'm going to say this again. Just because you're from, I know a lot of people from New York that show empathy towards others. I know a lot of people that are not politicians that are capable of showing empathy. With all due respect, sir, you don't have to be a polished individual, and you don't have to be a politician to be able to answer someone who is a nurse who is on the front lines and show just a little bit of empathy towards her. The man didn't do it. Do you understand where I'm coming from? He didn't do it.
I agree with that. I agree with you on that. I agree that the whole Lysol thing, I agree with that. He says some things that he shouldn't say.
Okay, so can
he's not perfect, and Brian expects
perfection. So let me ask you, no, that's ridiculous.
And a lot of liberals expect perfection.
Excuse me.
A lot of lifelong Democrats expect perfection.
There's a fine line between, you are so wrong on this. There is a fine line between perfection and having a little bit of empathy for somebody. It is a ridiculous thing you just said. I appreciate the phone call. You're right. We do. Maybe we agree more than we disagree.
I'm glad you got this one through, and your phone made it happen.
Completely ridiculous to say that I want somebody perfect. All I want is somebody with a little bit of empathy. You know what? George W. Bush even had empathy. He had empathy after 9/11. I guarantee you, he was far from perfect, but I guarantee you, if George W. Bush was in that situation, you know what he would have said? Hold on, let me finish. George W. Bush would have said, thank you so much for what you've done. You're a hero. We're going to do, me and my administration.
He's polished in D.C. all day. I agree.
Me and my administration are going to do everything we can
to help. Who has been
a
better president, Donald Trump or George Bush? George W. Bush.
Okay, what does it have to do with showing empathy?
I'm just asking you.
Okay, so you want me to...
George W. Bush started... George W. Bush started an entire war on false pretenses.
What does that have to do with showing empathy? What does it have to do with...
I'm just saying, who do you think was better president?
It has nothing to do with this conversation. Okay. I'm not even going to answer it. If you're going to ask me something that has to do with...
So the answer is Trump.
It has nothing to do...
Your answer is Trump.
It has nothing
I'm fine with that.
to do
I'm happy with that.
this conversation. We're talking about empathy towards others. We're talking about this nurse, and it has nothing to do with the 8 years of the George
Yes,
W.
you're driving it home now that I said you're right. Donald Trump should have answered that question, or should have said something different.
No,
which
you're just saying
she should have. That being said, it's not like she was in New York. She's in New Orleans.
Doesn't matter where she is.
No, it does. It does.
No, it
actually.
doesn't.
Yes.
No, it
If the caseload is if hospitalizations aren't very high where she's at, then she's not going to have to see a lot of patients every single day. If she's in New York or New Jersey or Detroit and she's seeing 7-8 patients a day, she's going to need more PPE. So that matters.
It has nothing to do with the president not showing empathy. What you just said has zero to do. I told you the way he should have answered the question. I think most people agree with me, even Republicans would. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Carol. Carol, you're next on the Vegas Take.
What's up, Carol?
Carol, hello. Nice to speak to you guys. It's the first time I'm listening to your show.
Well, I appreciate that.
I want to say two things. Where did the video come from that finally emerged to reveal what happened on that road?
She's talking about the last case, the Ahmaud Arbery case.
Let's get off the Trump thing for a minute, if you guys don't mind. Where did the video come from that has emerged showing what really happened on that road?
Quickly, I'll answer that. It was a driver that was behind. It was dash cam video. My understanding is that it was released to police, and they decided not to make it public until now. Somebody leaked it. It was leaked out, and now it's become public because I believe the police have certainly, not what I believe, the facts show that the police have hid this underneath the rug for months. I'm so glad the video has been released because now we know what happened.
Well, yeah, and it's hard to deny that at this point, based on what we have.
Thank you for the
Good
phone call.
Carlo.
Yeah, thank you for the call. Yep.
Someone did a dash cam and turned the video in because it's never been made clear by anyone as
Right.
to how the video.
Yep. We appreciate that, Carol. All I can tell you, Carol, is that we're going to continue to talk about this tomorrow on the show, and we're as soon as we get more information, we'll continue to do it, Carol. And we hope you call in when we're talking about it. 702.
Thanks for the call, Carol.
702-257-5396. Let's go to Doug. Doug, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Doug?
Good morning, gentlemen. Nice to talk to you again. I can only say that every time I turn you guys on and I have the opportunity to listen to you, it's just really nice to see that you may even have opposing viewpoints, but you're fair and you're honest. And when I call in, that's what I try to be. And I am so getting tired of the cringe-worthy moments that our president is throwing out.
Yeah, so am I.
You just want to crawl under a rock. And I will give him credit when it comes to him shutting down flights from China and shutting down flights from Europe. But you know something? He doesn't get a B or a B plus or even a B minus. He gets a passing grade. All he's doing is passing. That's not what I want from my president. And I think that's Brian's.
Yeah.
I think that's Brian's approach. Is we're not saying perfect. No, I want him to do better than just getting by.
Yeah, well,
I really do.
I agree.
Expect that from a president.
And by the way, I appreciate that, Doug, and good to hear from you. Thank you for the phone call. I will say this again.
Yeah, good call, Doug.
I'm not looking for perfection. Certainly Obama wasn't perfect. I can't recall any president that was perfect. But what I will say is that we need, I agree with what Doug just said. He's absolutely right in talking about my beliefs. We need a president that's going to do more than just getting by when it comes to this coronavirus. Let's get back to the phone calls at 257-5396. Let's go to Celeste. Celeste, you are next up on the Vegas Take. Do me a big favor and turn your radio down, Celeste. What's on your mind?
Hey, Celeste.
I turned it off. Hey.
Thank you.
It's my first time calling in. I listen to you guys all the time.
Oh, well, thank you. We appreciate you.
I never agree with you, but I totally agree with you on that, the way he responded.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the reason why I don't agree with you is because I think that you are, I don't want to say hater because that's not my whole family.
Oh, he's a hater.
You're so anti-Trump that
it's
very hard for you to pick out the.
So here's Celeste, I appreciate you. Let me respectfully let me explain to you my thoughts on Trump real quickly, and I appreciate you calling in. I vote differently maybe than most people vote. I vote based on, are you a decent human being? I can give you 1,000 reasons why I think Donald Trump. Let me just finish, JD. Give me 1,000 reasons why I think Donald Trump is a horrible human being. Okay, the president of the United States is the most important position, and he's the leader of the free world. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to have higher standards for the president of the United States. 95% of the reason why I dislike the president has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with the way he treats people, the way he's talked about POWs, the way he talks about women's looks, the way he treats people. And that's the best way. And listen, When Donald Trump was elected into office, Celeste, I wanted nothing more than him to succeed, and I thought the rhetoric would stop. The man won. He won the presidency. I still want him to succeed. I don't want people to die. I want people to be safe. I want the economy to that's the truth. I actually still want him to succeed. What happens in the elections in 2020, that's not up to me. But all I can tell you, Celeste, is this. You'll never, and I promise you on this, you'll never hear me say anything on the radio that I don't truly believe. I'm always going to be honest with you. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree with me. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I tried to answer it, Celeste, as best I could.
That applies for our entire show, and I don't just become contrarian to be a contrarian. I mean exactly what I say. And Brian and I, we have different ideologies in a lot of areas.
You guys have a great charisma.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you, Celeste. And this is another example of a caller that disagrees with me, but I'm certainly not going to, bash her because she doesn't agree with me. She asked me a very fair question, and I gave her the best answer that I could, the honest answer I could. To go back real quickly, the callers that I get angry at are, the Bradys of the world, those that are blatantly racist people. Let's just call it.
Well, today he was an absolute blatant racist.
When somebody calls in and they accuse me of saying something that I've never said, or she didn't call me a liar. She was very fair. When you call up and you call me a liar, and then I say to you, name me one lie I've ever said on this show, and you can't do it, then you're an idiot, and I'm going to hang up on you, and I'm going to go on to the next caller. Okay? It's okay to disagree with me. It's okay, just like that last caller. But, be respectful. Come at me with your disagreements, and I'll try to answer your questions as honest and as best as I can. Celeste, we appreciate your phone call.
Good call, Celeste.
Please call back anytime. All right.
By the way, Brian does not vote. That's how he votes. He doesn't vote.
Well, I certainly didn't vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, that's for sure. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Clark County Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick will be joining us. She's got some budget problems she's going to talk about with us. Also, unlike the mayor, she actually oversees the Strip, so we're definitely going to ask her a bunch of Las Vegas Strip questions. She actually has some authority over the Strip, unlike Mayor Carolyn Goodman. So we'll ask her about that coming up next. The Clark County Commissioner. It's the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
A member of the military who works on the White House campus is tested positive. They said that the president and the vice president were tested after that, and both tested negative for the virus. They say they remain in great health.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says his state's social distancing is working.
We're on the downside of the mountain. Downside of the mountain is a much more gentle slope than what we went through going up the mountain. We wish it was a steeper decline, but it's not.
In early March, the virus became so widespread in New York, it was the source of most of the new infections nationwide. Neiman Marcus says it's filed for bankruptcy to shed debt it can't repay, but hopes to reemerge. The Dow up 345. I'm Mike Morse.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Watch for slowing for the crash reported on Bonanza east of Eastern Avenue. Avoid delays. Use an alternate route like Washington or Stewart instead. Also a crash reported on Desert Inn at Buffalo. And police on scene for the crash at Valley View north of Sahara at El Camino. Use Arville to get around that one. Police are with the scene. No delays to report. I-15 north and southbound between the Spaghetti Bowl and Southern Beltway. Need to manage a changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at expresspros.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Please listen. This is important. Anyone can be affected by the prescription opioid crisis. If you think you've been hurt by Purdue or its prescription opioids like OxyContin, you may be entitled to compensation as part of Purdue's bankruptcy, but you have to file a claim. Claims may include overdose, death, substance use disorder, lost wages, and neonatal abstinence syndrome. A confidential claim can be filed by individuals, a legal guardian, by survivors or relatives of people who have died or are disabled. The deadline to file a claim is June 30th, 2020, or you will lose your right to file a claim. For more information, visit PurduePharmaClaims.com, or you can call toll-free 1-844-217-0912. That's 1-844-217-0912. Paid for by Prime Clerk, LLC.
Travis Scribner, managing partner of Westpath Wealth Partners, interviews some of the most successful business owners for insight into what makes both them and their business run. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDON, or podcasts on iTunes.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Satisfaction? Simplicity? Performance? When it comes to vaping, we know what matters. At Vuse, we've been pioneering vapor technologies since 2013. All of our liquids are blended in the USA, and our vapor products are only sold through reputable retailers and our website. At Vuse, we charge beyond at what matters to you. Vuse, charge beyond. Underage sale prohibited. Website restricted to age 21 and over tobacco consumers.
I'm attorney Paul Powell. If you've been in an accident, who do you call? The funny lawyer? The angry, aggressive lawyer? The lawyer that your mom's brother's friend's cousin recommends. Now, call me instead. I'm the guy the insurance companies don't want you to call. Really, they really don't. I can help you, and I won't take more money than you at the end of your case. Check it out.
If you're tired of greedy lawyers, call 728-5500 or go to paulpowell.com.
I really can help.
Paul Powell. More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
With McDelivery, McDonald's comes to you. Wherever you live, your home is now at McDonald's. Order your favorites today on Uber Eats or DoorDash. Prices may be higher than at restaurants.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Thursday. Glad you could join us. By the way, Darcy Spears from ABC 13 will be joining us in hour number 3. Really crazy audio from Kevin Spacey. We'll explain what that's all about coming up a little later in the program. But as you know, delivery services are skyrocketing and revenues are plummeting. There's some budget issues in this city. There's budget issues throughout the country, throughout the world, but certainly they're happening here. And look, people want to know, when is the Strip going to reopen? Thoughts on that? What better person to have on the line than the Clark County Commissioner herself? That would be Marilyn Kirkpatrick joining us on the line. Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate your time. I know you've been very busy. I want to talk about some of the budget issues that you're facing, but before we actually get to that, let's start by talking about the Las Vegas Strip. Your thoughts on, Mayor Carolyn Goodman. She goes on CNN, Anderson Cooper. My opinion is I don't think she did herself any favors, sharing her opinions on the Strip should reopen tomorrow. I want to get your thoughts on that, Marilyn Goodman's take on the Strip, and then your overall take of the Strip, if you can share that with us.
So what I'll tell you is, quite frankly, I'm working tirelessly to get us reopened in a safe manner, and that's really what's important today. So I'm focused on that. I sit on the Southern Nevada Health District. I understand the public health risks that are there, and I just don't think that we're ready to turn the key and have everything open at once.
Have you had...
The last thing that I want to do is... Sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner. Go ahead.
And I just think that that's our focus today, is to move us forward in a safe manner, and not in a rush to just start turning things over, because that's not beneficial for the long term for the employees that need to feel safe about going back to work, as well as the tourists that we're supposed to invite back.
And by the way, for the record, I could not agree with you more, and I appreciate what you just said. But I have to ask, do you think it hurts the city, and do you think it hurts what you're trying to do and what your people are trying to do when the mayor does all these national interviews and is, saying that she thinks everything should reopen tomorrow with no plan in place? I'm not trying to put you in a difficult spot, because I know you have to work with the mayor, and like I said, I'm on your side here. But do you think it's a little bit, because a lot of people feel it's detrimental what she did by making these claims that she wants everything to reopen tomorrow? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just tell you, and I go back to the public health component of this. I think that I've been very clear. I too sit on a lot of national boards, and the goal is to, tell the world that we will come back when we're ready. And I think that's been very apparent with all of the hotels that are working to get testing in place so that our employees feel comfortable. So I work with everybody across the aisles, but nationally, I think people understand frustration on all sides, right? Some folks want to go back right away. Some folks aren't ready to go back. And I think that across the country, we've gotten several emails that folks saying, thank you for taking your time. We look forward to when you can invite us back. And I think that's the important part. Resilience, we'll get there. They know that about us. And we'll invite them back when we're ready.
And I think one thing that's working in Las Vegas' favor is that this isn't just a significant or just isolated in Las Vegas. This is a national and international issue. It's not just happening where Las Vegas is shut down. Everything is shut down at this point.
Yeah. There's no question about that. So I want to, if you're just joining us again, we're speaking to Marilyn Kirkpatrick, the Clark County Commissioner. Before we get to some of the budget issues that you are facing, let me get your take on this. It's my personal opinion that the Strip is probably, and the casinos are probably the last thing that should open up, right? Because of all the people that would be coming to town and the amount of people that are in a casino, social distancing. So I just want to get your thoughts on that. When some people, and I'm not talking about the mayor anymore, but just people in general, they want the Strip to open up. I mean, my thought is that's probably the last thing that should open up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, quite frankly, I've been following the CDC guidelines from day one on this, and the CDC guidelines say that there should be groups of less than 10 in clusters, and that is to help with the contact tracing should somebody be positive. And so it's well into phase 3 before they start talking about groups over 250. But also recognize that international travel is not happening right now. That is a big portion of what we rely on. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
I don't see how we wouldn't even be, be working in the best interest of anybody by not following the CDC guidelines.
I could not agree with you more, for the record again, but I have to ask you this question, and I know this is probably going to be a very difficult question for you to answer, and I know you're looking at the guidelines of the CDC, which, by the way, I support. I think you and the governor are going about this exactly the way you should be. With that being said, I have to ask you this question. Realistically speaking, what you just said about phase 3, we're not even in phase 1 yet, can you give any sort of timetable or any idea where you could say to yourself, you know, maybe I could see the Strip opening up at this point? And I know the virus is going to dictate that. I know the CDC, you're talking to all the professionals, which again, I 100% support. Can you give us any in-depth knowledge at all of where you can see this thing opening up again as far as the Strip goes?
No, and that would not be a responsible leader saying just that. So what I will tell you is I'm very excited about the governor's press conference today to start talking about moving forward to phase 1 because we've seen the numbers drop in hospitalization.
Right.
Because we are prepared in the event that we would need them. But I think that would be irresponsible of me as a leader. But I can tell you that conversations are being had with the LVCVA, with the Resort Association, with the health district, with the medical providers on what do we need to start preparing for. Because what I would tell you is it's a lot easier to shut things down. We all know that those of us that live here, when you open a brand new hotel, you start working weeks and months in advance to get things right. So the hotels are already doing that, and that's exactly the right thing they're supposed to be doing. Is what will the new adventure to Las Vegas mean for both the employees and for the employer, as well as our tourists?
And I agree that the Strip at this point should be shut down because without the tourism demand, every single business would just be setting money on fire, in my opinion. But the local businesses across not just in Clark County, but across the state of Nevada, I mean, you look at the entire caseload, it's less than 6,000. 1,180 of those are actually active cases. That's the lowest active case total of COVID-19 in the country by far. What about those other local businesses, those other local casinos, especially considering how important gaming is to the state income or to the tax revenue, because we don't have a state income tax here or a food tax?
Well, those are very important, but again, you have to proceed with caution. We've already seen some other states having to pull back from phase one, and I don't want to be in that position. What my reputation is I proceed slow, I'm methodical, and sitting on the House district brings a unique perspective, right? So I've been paying attention to this since January. So I think that we will get there. I think it's important that we open businesses as soon as we can, with public health as the number one priority,
Right.
On both sides, right?
Yeah.
So some are nervous about going back, some are anxious to get back, and that creates a level of frustration. So phase one will be a huge tool for us to see where the data is. We've had enhanced testing, so I'm looking forward to getting to phase one.
Sure. Again, if you're just joining us, it's Marilyn Kirkpatrick, the Clark County Commissioner. One more question, then I want to get to some of these budget issues that you're facing and what you guys are dealing with. You know, I've talked a lot about some of these protests throughout the state and throughout the country. For example, what happened in Carson City, I think, was a travesty. I think it was disgusting. You know, when you have some of these protesters that are trying to storm into Governor Sisolak's actual home, some of them carrying guns. I mean, what do you make of some of these protests, not just in this state, not just in Las Vegas, but throughout the country? What do you make of it?
Well, it's disappointing. It's not the Nevada that I know, and we've never done that. And so what I would say is I don't know how many of them are actually from Nevada or live in Nevada. So I wish that they could go back to their own state to start working on getting their states reopened. You know, we can't forget that all of the states around us, either they shut much earlier than we did. It's always been the conversation, at least on every plan that I looked at, that there was a minimum of 8 to 10 week shutdown. So I think it's disappointing because we're better than that in Nevada. And so for the Nevadans that are here, most that I've talked to are very reasonable. They're just looking for some guidance. So I'm not sure many of those people that were protesting actually live in our state.
Let me ask you one more question in regards to that, Commissioner. If you right now were talking to somebody going to one of these rallies, let's just say they do live in Las Vegas. They're wearing all their Trump gear. And I don't want to make this political, but let's just hypothetically speak, because let's be honest, most of these protesters are Trump supporters. What would you say to them, a Trump supporter going to one of these rallies saying, we need to reopen tomorrow? What would be your message to them?
So my message would be that that's contrary to what President Trump has stated from day one. President Trump has said he'd like people to start opening around April 30th. We have followed his guidelines with the CDC since day one in our state, and that, we need to open as the public health is there. And so our state in particular worked to get all the testing in place. We did not wait for the federal government. And so knowing that all the states around us are in the same situation, we're working together to ensure that public health is number one.
Yeah, well, very well said. I completely agree. All right, let's talk about some of the budgetary issues that you're facing. I think on the record stating that, you got all these delivery services that are going up pretty high. They're skyrocketing. Meanwhile, revenues are plummeting. So you're facing a lot of challenging issues from a budgetary issue. Can you talk about the challenges that you're facing there financially and what you guys are trying to do as we speak to try to help people?
So what I would tell you is I caution folks on them insisting that we start making cuts because we've yet to see the social service impact today. And until we can bring back all of our employees, until we can get through phase one or get started in phase one, we really have yet to see. This is really the calm before the storm. So we know that unemployment is going to be well in the 20% aisle. We know that that's going to, more people are going to need rental assistance, more people are going to need food assistance, more of our vulnerable people are going to need extra things as well. So we today are looking, and Nevada is a very lean state when it comes to government. I think we're like 48th on government as a whole, because we've run very lean, because that is what people have expected of us for a very long time. Will we make some changes? Will we not do some of our park improvements or our maintenance to make some savings? Are we working to ensure that the CARES Act is being spent methodically for the long term?
Right.
Is there a benefit? So there's a lot of things that have to go into that, and it would be silly for us to do that overnight.
Sure.
We have amazing employees that have been on the front line that will continue to work with us as we get through this.
And Commissioner, I know you have an opportunity to constantly, you're in contact with the governor and many politicians in this state, but I have to ask you this. If you had an opportunity right now to speak to the President of the United States, what would be your number one priority? What would be the first thing you wanted to ask him and talk to him about?
Well, the first thing I'd want to talk to him about is the lost revenue component, and understanding there's at least 7 states that work similar to Nevada, where tourism, they rely on tourism dollars. And I would ask him to look at the public safety component of the lost revenue. An example is the Las Vegas Strip. So there's about 1,100 officers maybe that are funded based on revenue that comes from the Las Vegas Strip. So I don't want to have to go backwards with public safety, because at some point I'm expected to provide a public safety component when tours start coming, but the revenue won't come at the same time. So I'd ask him to look at the lost revenue for states like mine, and public safety is a top priority. Police, fire, EMT services, for one, just to take that into consideration.
At this point, how much money do you think that Clark County and the Las Vegas Strip in particular, in Las Vegas, needs from the federal government to get back to, we'll say, 90% where you were before?
So we anticipate we have about a $361 million projected structural deficit, and that is because we rely on sales tax, room tax in our state. We anticipate about a $1.9 billion shortfall over the next 12 to 18 months on our projections. So that's a lot of revenue. Would I ask for all of it? Absolutely not. But do I think that there are some key areas within our community that we need to preserve? And that would be my ask.
Well, and I think that considering Donald Trump has property very well, basically on the Las Vegas Strip, he's close with Sheldon Adelson and Phil Ruff, and he has some close ties to Las Vegas that I think he would consider helping in that regard. That being said, Nevada, California, Colorado, Washington, Oregon just entered a Western States Pact. Do you see all those states coming together and asking for federal funding as a conglomerate, basically?
Well, I would hope that states across the nation come together to ask about that, but I know that counties really are working, because so many people don't realize what counties do when it comes to social service, public safety, across the board, across the nation, the roadways that we have to provide for. Clark County is very unique because we provide both the county components that other states do, as well as the municipality component. So I would hope the nation would come together to figure out how we can rebuild in a shorter time. The last recession took us 10 years across the country, and I'm not sure that we can wait 10 years to rebuild.
Sure. Commissioner, I appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners that maybe we haven't covered today, if anything at all, that you'd like to say?
No, first and foremost, I want to thank the residents of Nevada for being patient during these challenging times. And I want to also thank them for sticking with us, and we will get through this. We are very resilient, and I'm looking forward to getting started moving forward, and I ask that everybody work with us to make that happen. And safe and public health way.
Absolutely. Commissioner, I appreciate what you and your staff have done. I think you're doing a great job, and I also support the governor. I think you guys are really going about this the right way. I wish the entire country would follow your lead, quite frankly. But I thank you so much for coming on and taking the time, and love to have you on again down the road. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Commissioner.
That's Marilyn Kirkpatrick, the Clark County Commissioner. Unlike the mayor, she actually does oversee the Las Vegas Strip.
She does.
Certainly, I don't want to put her in a peculiar situation to attack the mayor, but I think you can tell by her answer she wasn't very happy with the way the mayor was answering some of these questions, and I think she's going about it the right way.
I thought it was very interesting that we have 1,100 police officers that are on the Las Vegas Strip at all times that are funded by sales tax from the Strip. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, well, it certainly isn't stopping the police officers and security on the Strip. I mean, I was taking a walk on the Strip the other day, and there were police officers everywhere.
And many aren't armed when things are. I mean, not armed, but aren't dressed. They don't look like police officers. They're not in the full uniform. When everything is rocking and rolling in Las Vegas, they're not really seen because they don't want to create that image of being kind of like an authoritarian, if you will.
Well, all I can tell you is this: I think the commissioner is going about this exactly the right way. She, just like everybody, I think, understands the financial burden and how difficult this has been on Las Vegas.
$1.9 billion is a real amount of money, Brian.
It is a real amount of money, but a real number is also over 70,000 deaths. She also understands that, and that is why she is listening to the CDC guidelines. And by the way, she's absolutely right. Many of this is through the Trump administration. The phases, when we should reopen, when we shouldn't reopen. Many of this is the guidelines through the Donald Trump administration. Donald Trump can say liberate Michigan and liberate any state he wants to, but the bottom line is his own administration's guidelines, going by the CDC, taking it step by step. And the word we want to use here, or the word I used and the commissioner used, is being cautious. Because what she doesn't want, what I don't want, and what I think most people don't want in this country is to open up too early for the wrong reasons and then have this pandemic come back stronger. And that is the worst thing that could possibly happen in this situation.
Well, you saw the recent study a couple of days ago, right?
I'm sure she saw all the recent studies too.
The virus has mutated. It is now significantly more contagious than they initially thought, but it is not necessarily more deadly. So what that means is that it is going to spread, especially after what happened in New York, where, again, and we talked about this before, 1,300 people that are hospitalized. They did they traced where they were, and 66% of them were at home. They got the virus just sitting at home. So this thing is extremely contagious. It's most likely going to run its course no matter what we do as far as excessive mitigation. And right now, 34 million people in the United States don't have jobs.
Okay, well, your comment of it's most likely going to run its course,
yes.
Quote, no matter what we do, to me, I couldn't disagree.
Okay, well, okay, short of us literally sitting at home.
Let me finish my statement. You got to let me finish. You got to let me respond to you. No matter what we do, I completely disagree with that.
Within reason, no matter what we do within reason.
There has to be social distancing. Okay, it doesn't mean that we should have kept the Strip open this whole time. It means that we have to be vigilant and we have to be careful. We have to listen to the social distancing guidelines. And I personally believe, and I think many in the medical field have been saying this, that if we haven't been practicing social distancing, if we let everything remain open, it is very plausible that we could have lost millions of lives.
Well, the Strip comes and goes based on public perception. If the perception is that you can't be in a place with a group of more than 10 people, then it's not going to be busy. I mean, that's if airports are shut down internationally and nationally, it's not going to be busy. The Strip cannot be opened unless the thought process is across not just the country but the world that it is okay and it is safe.
That's fine, but I don't agree.
And that has nothing to do with Clark County. There's nothing to do with local businesses or the Nevada economy itself.
That's fine, but I don't agree with let's just the disease, the coronavirus, it's going to run its course, so let's just go about our normal everyday lives. I'm sorry, I completely disagree with that.
Well, what I'm saying is basically the only way to stop this thing from spreading is by sitting in our homes all day long, having groceries sprayed down, having set up deliveries once or twice a week with groceries and supplies, and doing it that way, which is completely unreasonable and would never happen. So what I'm saying is no matter what we do, we're not going to stop the spread of this virus. It is going to spread, especially if it is mutated and become more contagious than it already was.
Okay, there's a reason why there's social distancing. There's a reason why there are guidelines put in place, and there's a reason why almost the entire country in the world is shut down. It is because there is a way to mitigate this, and there is a way to save lives, and that's exactly why we're in quarantine. That's exactly why we're doing a radio show out of a home. For that specific reason. We're not doing it for fun. We're doing it because we have to do it, because there are guidelines that are put in place, and the CDC and many other of the experts believe that it will save lives and it will help mitigate this virus. And I believe we need to continue to stay the course and listen to the experts and not open up everything just because somebody might think, well, the virus is going to run its course anyway, so let's just open everything up. I just disagree with that.
All right, so more news for 2020. A May snowstorm is headed for the Northeast U.S. A historic May snowstorm is heading for the Northeast U.S. and England. 75 million people are going to wake up with below freezing temperatures on this Saturday. It's going to be colder than it was on Christmas for 75 million people.
Good. That way more people will be
that is 2020 in a nutshell.
Well, good. Maybe that'll keep the idiot protesters home. That's actually a good thing. They won't be able to protest. They won't be able to go with their Trump flags and go out and protest.
In the Northeast, you're not going to have a lot of Trump flags, Brian.
Good. I hope they throw snowballs at each other. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by ABC 13's Darcy Spears. She's got a very interesting antibody testing story that she is going to share with us, and much, much more. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. Again, Darcy Spears from ABC 13 coming up next. It's the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
If your retirement plan is on set it and forget it, it's time to take control. Tune in for Financial Safari with America's Wealth Coach and best-selling author, Coach Pete D'Arruda. For more than 25 years, Coach Pete has been helping people just like you plan for retirement. Join Coach Pete every week as he discusses topics like why your retirement plan should also be an income plan and how to make sure you're getting the most out of your 401k.
Financial Safari with Coach Pete, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday afternoon at 2 on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Are you looking for smoke-free housing? Visit gethealthyclarkcounty.org for a list of 50,000 smoke-free units available.
Special report coronavirus update. Texas Governor Greg Abbott wants to free a Dallas salon owner for violating local coronavirus restrictions.
Shelley Luther was ordered to 7 days in jail for ignoring a judge's restraining order to close her business. Don Whitman with Governor Abbott's office says the governor's now retroactively modified his state order, taking jail time off the table for violating it.
It also swore that other Texans should not be subject to confinement.
But to be so simple, the Dallas County Sheriff's Office says Luther's jailed for contempt of, which means a release would have to come from the judge. Clayton Neville, Dallas.
White House correspondent Caitlin Collins reports the president tested negative after a valet tested positive for the virus.
We're told this person showed up yesterday. They were exhibiting symptoms. They were tested. And of course, then the president was later informed. And we're told he was upset when he found out that one of the valets had tested positive for coronavirus.
The vice president also tested negative. I'm Mike Moss. 3.2 million more jobs lost last week. But again, the pace at which the jobs are being lost is slowing. Moody's economist Mark Zandi says the job market is in a deep crisis.
The unemployment rate's going to peak out at somewhere close to 20%. And the underemployment rate, which includes lots of other folks that are kind of on the periphery of the labor market, will be closer to 25%. So that gives you just a sense of how serious and damaging this is.
Zandi says it may take years for the nation to get back to 3.5% unemployment rates. The April unemployment report is due tomorrow morning and is expected to show a 20% unemployment rate. New York will extend a moratorium on evictions for non-payment of rent for another 2 months until August 20th to alleviate anxiety over the economic impact of the virus pandemic. On Wall Street, the Dow up 325. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads
from the Lerner Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. A serious crash reported on Russell Road at Fort Apache Road. Avoid heavy delays. Take an alternate like Patrick Lane, Tropicana, or Grand Canyon Drive. Also, an accident reported on the Western Beltway northbound at Far Hills Avenue. Vehicles off to the side at the exit ramp. And an accident at Blue Diamond at Valley View Boulevard. Avoid heavy slowing. Use Robindale or Serene instead. Pros, Lowe's is open and pro-ready with the supplies you need to make repairs during this important time. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This is the story of Julie Guillot. She's a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society advocate and the mother of a child who battled blood cancer.
Zach was diagnosed with AML, a deadly leukemia, when he was only 5. He died at just 9 years old, really from the treatment that was meant to save him.
Today, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society is pioneering breakthrough treatments for kids with cancer. Visit LLS.org and save a child's life. Furnished by LLS.
It's open enrollment season, and Medishare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google Medishare and see if it's a fit for you. Medishare, healthcare you can believe in.
You've heard me talk about Homey and how they will save you thousands of dollars when you buy or sell a home. Not only are they disrupting the traditional real estate model, but I am blown away by how they are investing in our local community during these tough times. I couldn't be more proud to endorse Homey, and here's why. Homey is committing up to $100,000 to the United Way of Southern Nevada to help keep people in their homes through rent and mortgage assistance for those impacted by COVID-19. For every home bought or sold with Homey over the next 90 days, they will donate $500 to the United Way. Even more importantly, Homey will rebate their entire $2,500 listing fee back to you if you are forced to sell your home due to this crisis. That's right, no selling fee. That's huge. It's amazing to see a new company in Las Vegas step up in such a big way. Text JD to 88588 to buy or sell with Homey. Again, text JD to 88588. Stay safe and save thousands. Homey really does have our back.
These are unprecedented times, which are causing a lot of stress and financial worry for millions of Americans. But here's some good news. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, Optima Tax Relief can reduce the stress in your life by helping you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Make no mistake, you don't want to owe the IRS right now. They can take your paycheck and everything you work so hard for. But with Optima on your side, you may qualify for help that saves you thousands. Their tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and has resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for taxpayers across the nation. So now's the time. For tax help you need, for tax help you trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-709-6011. That's 800-709-6011. 800-709-6011.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Thursday. By the way, the breaking news, the Trump administration has rejected the CDC guidance on safe reopening. So we're going to continue to monitor that and talk about it. Also, Governor Steve Sisolak will be speaking at 3 p.m. today, talking about when Vegas will be entering phase 1. But joining us right now on the line, we love it because every week we get some dirty dining. There's not a lot of dirty dining to talk about these days, but Darcy Spears from ABC 13 joins us. Darcy, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great this morning. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a little bit first. I mean, have you been doing any dirty dining? Is there anything going on as far as that's concerned? Because as you know, a lot of these restaurants, I shouldn't say a lot, but as you know, some of these restaurants are still open as far as to-go orders. Anything new on that home front?
Well, the restaurants that are and continue to be open for curbside pickup, delivery, to-go orders. They're subject to health inspections, just the same as if they allowed people to come in and dine. You remember, they use kitchens to commercially prepare their food for the general public. And so while the health district, works to ensure that there are strong public health measures in place to respond to COVID-19, part of those efforts are to inspect the places that are open for takeout, curbside, and delivery. And they're not always keeping clean, and we continue to find that to be the case every week, including this one.
No doubt, no doubt. And I also have no doubt when things begin to reopen, you're going to be back at it again. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about...
Yeah. But for now, we're online. We just aren't going into the restaurants to ask for, people's comments like we typically do. So the broadcast version of it has been scaled back to respect the social distancing guidelines and the shutdown and the stay-at-home stuff. So we're getting the information. The records are there. We're speaking to restaurant owners when they agree to speak with us on the phone, and putting that stuff out there digitally. So the information's still there.
Gotcha. We appreciate that. You do a great job at that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about antibody testing because you did a story on this, investigating this. Antibody testing, is remaining hard to find in Nevada, and some of this testing shows that, if someone's been infected. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? What did you find out?
So antibody testing and what could come from that, which is potential convalescent plasma donation, is kind of the next step as we move toward the rebound and reopening. There have been a lot of antibody tests that are already out there, produced by private organizations. But earlier this week, the FDA changed previously relaxed rules to make antibody test approval more stringent after they realized that self-regulation resulted in inaccuracies on those antibody tests as high as 40% across the country. So, people may have been able to go to a private lab and get an antibody test, but prior to this week, when those federal regulations changed, it's unfortunately very hard if the test that you got was reliable. The health district just started talking yesterday about its plans to roll out antibody testing, which they told us they hope to have rolled out in the next week or so. UMC is going to start doing it on May the 30th. UNLV has a partnership going with Vitalant and with UMC to start doing reliable antibody testing. And we're told by the health district that this stuff is going to be between 95 and 99% accurate. So the important thing to know there is that antibody testing can tell you if you've been infected, but it can't tell you when you've been infected.
Right.
And they're also, they don't yet know how long the immunity will last in your system. Are you immune to get it again for a couple weeks, a couple months, forever? There's still so many unknowns. And I know a lot of people who believe that they were sick much earlier. You guys are probably aware that we did that earlier coronavirus timeline story where the state did confirm what a lot of people suspected, and that, the coronavirus was here in Las Vegas before that March 5th first positive case.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who feel like they had it before then and want to get those antibody tests may learn that they did in fact have it, but it also might not correlate with the fact that they felt sick. Could have been super sick and had something other than COVID-19 and not had any symptoms of COVID-19 and still get that positive antibody. So there's just a lot of unknowns in the medical community. But once these reliable tests start rolling out more frequently, at least people will have, some knowledge. Hey, I have it. I've got some immunity of some sort in my system. And then a lot of folks, of course, want to be part of the solution and take the next step, which is go through the process of being qualified to donate convalescent plasma, because right now that is really the only FDA-approved antibody treatment available. And people who are really sick in the hospital and get this convalescent plasma transfusion are getting immune-boosting antibodies that some who've been sick and received it say is what they believe saved their lives.
Well, another thing that it does is it lowers the mortality rate of the virus. Obviously, if you had the virus and you survived, then you didn't die of it, and obviously it becomes less deadly. There was an article that came out about a man from Texas who was at CES in Las Vegas, and he actually was tested for antibodies at some point in the last month or so, and he was confirmed. He claimed that he had the exact same symptoms that your standard COVID-19 patient has directly after CES. He even described there was one particular room there where it was I think it was at the airport, but they called it the CES flu. I guess it's pretty standard for people to get very sick after CES, but this was a very severe CES flu under these circumstances. There was also a dermatologist named H.L. Greenberg who actually he believed he had symptoms in mid-December, and he went to Quest Diagnostics, and we actually had him on the show on this Monday, but he got tested for antibodies, and he was tested positive as well. So, myself, I was sick in January. I was told that I had pharyngitis, then strep, then bronchitis. It was a cough that was very, very deep down in my chest. So I think that a lot of people in Las Vegas have most likely been exposed to the virus. Have you heard about both of those stories as well, Darcy?
Absolutely. Michael Weber is the gentleman from Texas
Yes.
who was a CES attendee, and we spoke with him. We included the information from that interview in one of my earlier stories. In my piece that aired last night, we had a couple. The husband is a convention teamster who worked on the Samsung booth at CES. He got super, super sick right after that and gave it to his wife and talked about coworkers. He said one of his coworkers was coughing so hard that he actually broke capillaries in his eye.
Wow.
So, excuse me. So yes, there are certainly, and the CES flu is called the CES flu because this year's not the first time
Right.
that people got super sick during and after that convention.
Right.
You know, the environment is a germ pool, no matter whether there's coronavirus or not. But certainly a lot of people who were sick around that time, and keep in mind that's also flu season.
Right.
A lot of people do, in fact, believe that they had COVID-19. And we know that
Yep.
that earlier timeline exists. But again, going to get tested for those antibodies isn't going to tell you when you got sick.
Darcy, I want to change topics real quickly. Another story that you did a great job on, and that is pandemic speeders. Now, I can speak personally for myself. I think some of the worst drivers in the country are right here in Las Vegas, but I think this gives them a reason to say, well, maybe the cops aren't going to pull me over for a ticket with everything else, the open roads, everything else that's going on. Me personally, I've seen what you saw, and that is people taking advantage of this pandemic and driving way too fast. Not even on the highways, but on some of these side streets. Tell us a little bit about what you found.
So that's a real issue, pandemic speeders, not only in Las Vegas, but across the country. People are taking advantage of the open roads. They're going way, 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 way too fast. The stats we got from Metro and from Nevada Highway Patrol show just speeds well above 100 miles an hour. People
Wow.
are just zooming out there. And it's not that law enforcement isn't paying attention. In fact, they are. And the people who continue to flout the speeding laws and not only put themselves, but a lot of other people in totally unnecessary jeopardy, are forcing the interaction between themselves and police and troopers because they have to keep tabs on this. But it's a really serious situation. And the takeaway from this is that the accidents that excessive speeding creates are completely and totally preventable. And, what are you in such a hurry to get to? There's nowhere to go right now. So there's been a lot of more drunk driving arrests, a lot more incidents, crashes that the police are having to respond to because people are out there breaking the law kind of just because they can. And it's not okay.
No, it's definitely not okay, and I'm glad you're exposing some of these people, and it's terrible. With everything else that we're having to deal with when it comes to this coronavirus pandemic, we shouldn't have to deal with more dangerous drivers on the roadways. Darcy, always appreciate it when you take the time to come on with us. Can you give us a little bit of information on some of your stories when they air on ABC 13?
So you can find me typically, my stuff's been airing in our 6 p.m. newscast. But a lot of the stuff that a little bit more of the special report style things, you can catch those first thing in the morning at 6 a.m. and then again at 11 a.m. in our midday show, and then they re-air at 6 p.m. So we're making those stories available to folks throughout the day parts since we know people are home and watching news at different times. Once again, on the dirty dining front, you won't see that on the air at 11 right now, like you typically do at 11 p.m., but it is online at ktnv.com. Just published a new one yesterday involving Mom's Teriyaki and an AM/PM mini mart. So that information is out there at ktnv.com, where you can also always find any of my stories that you may miss on television.
Mom's Teriyaki. I look forward to hearing all about that. Darcy, sounds interesting. Not the mom's teriyaki. Yeah. No, I haven't. No, I haven't. Tell us about.
Yesterday.
No.
Mom's Teriyaki is a little place on Jones and Sahara. And interestingly, the manager who I spoke to, really nice guy, told me how big a fan he is of dirty dining and that he never thought he'd be on the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and he explained to me the main issue with their kitchen is that it was really dirty and really greasy, and that the health department was concerned that there was going to be a potential pest infestation as a result of the condition. And he explained to me that because of the pandemic, they've had to let almost all of their staff go. And it's just him and his mom that are working 14 to 15 hours a day
Wow.
to make ends meet. And they admittedly fell down on the job when it came to cleaning the kitchen. And, so it's kind of a balance. You feel for these restaurants that are out there trying to maintain livelihood. And I'm sure it's a tough balance between filling to-go orders and keeping your kitchen clean. But you've got to do it. And,
No.
And he said that he takes full responsibility. He was really disappointed in the way things got, noting that the restaurants had only A grades for the past 4 years up to now. Hopefully, he believes business is going to pick up here soon enough and they'll be able to rehire some of their staff. But when you look at the pictures, and they're all posted at ktnv.com, you're going to see some pretty dirty and unsanitary and unappetizing conditions in there.
So,
and the AM/PM, which is on Charleston and 4th Street, they keep failing their re-inspections. They've got an infestation of flies.
Ooh.
Back up.
Not a fly guy.
The mini mart you want to be shopping at right now.
AM/PM. So what? Are there flies in like the egg salad sandwiches? I mean, that's. So what are they doing? They're just flying around.
Yeah, I mean,
Just buzzing around.
This is they're buzzing the place. Yeah, it's funny because inspectors reported they saw approximately 65 flies.
Wow.
Flying around and landing on walls and surfaces, and I'm like, you can really count 65 flies?
That's impressive.
I don't know.
Yeah, how do you do that when they're crossing each other, flying around like that? That's nuts.
That's very impressive.
Maybe a lot of them were landing on the food.
Oh, okay.
If somebody walks in there with an EBT food stamp card, are they allowed to purchase flies? Are they? I wonder if they're
Not
covered.
yet.
I wonder if they're covered under food stamp. I don't know. That's an interesting one. But anyway, Darcy.
Yeah, not yet. I mean, you call it a source of protein if you want.
Fair enough.
So I wanted to ask you, considering the circumstances, of the guy at Mom's actually being a fan of the show, did you take it easy on him and his mother's business as far as the demerit scale goes?
Surprisingly, most of the people we speak to when we do Dirty Dining tell me they're fans of the show.
Really?
They watch it. They appreciate.
So he's not special.
Value. No, it's definitely not the first time I've heard this.
Wow.
It's nice to rehear it because, even though it's a negative for the restaurant, the industry itself, we like to feel like we're partners with them in a way where, we're all interested in protecting public health. You got to be called on your you-know-what when you're not living up to your end of the bargain.
Sure.
And they appreciate, the public service journalism that we provide when we do this segment.
Yeah.
He's certainly not the first person who said he's a fan of the show, but it does typically lend to them being willing to talk to me and explain themselves.
Right.
And that helps a lot to get that perspective. So it's, the
Yeah.
have a
On a side note, I don't think anybody is seeking you out and emailing you from any of these restaurants saying what a big fan they are and they hope to star on your show, on your reports. I don't think we see that happening, but at the same time, it's nice to know that they appreciate what you do. So I think that's a testament to you. Darcy, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Please stay safe, you and your family, and look forward to catching up with you again next week. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you both. Stay healthy, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot,
There you
Darcy.
go. That is Darcy Spears. Great job she does for ABC 13. That actually turned into a Dirty Dining segment. That was awesome by accident.
We made it work.
Live radio, folks. All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I know Jason Stein, our producer, is very excited about this story. It involves a murder hornet. That's right. Hornets coming from another country, and, it's kind of like the grasshopper thing that was in Las Vegas, only this is more serious.
Way worse.
Grasshoppers, they taste good. They're a little crunchy, but you don't want to be eating any of these murder hornets. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Well, that explains your kidney stones.
We'll talk next about this. Take a Vegas take, actually, a Vegas break. It is the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, K-Dawn.
Rich is just a really, really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So now I've got this pack of 4 Shar-Pei rescue dogs. Jimmy, Coco, another Shar-Pei, one pug who is Joe. I have stuck with the Dinovite for, oh my goodness, probably 5-6 years.
DINOVITE.com.
People remark on really how well my dogs look, what beautiful coats they've got. I tell them, yep, they get a regular diet of Dinovite with every meal.
Dinovite is nutrition.
All I have to do is say dog food. It's a pandemonium. They can be half asleep, and they're up and thrilled.
She just looks that whole squeaky clean.
You don't need to wait until a problem presents itself. It's far better to keep the dog happy and healthy at all times.
Dinovite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
People do ask how they get Dinovite. I tell them I get my Dinovite from DINOVITE.com.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. K-Dawn.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. Coming up here in a little bit, you're not going to believe, well, maybe you will, some of the Kevin Spacey audio we have for you, the pedophile, whatever you'd like to call him, the evil pedophile, coming up here in just a little bit. I wish the movie Seven was real. That's all I will say on that one. I was just watching the movie Seven.
You want his head in a box?
No, that was what's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow. Oh, okay. No, I do not want. No. But Kevin Spacey was shot at the end of that movie. Anyone who molests children or kids or rapes anybody, yes, I don't believe they deserve to be on the planet Earth. But anyway, Stein, I know you're getting a kick out of this story, the murder hornet. Can you explain to us what the murder hornet is and what is going on?
The murder hornet is getting a lot of attention lately. This is obviously like a hornet, but bigger. I think it's like 2 inches long, and
so it's like your genitalia.
Yes, and
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And the sting of the murder hornet it can produce some searing pain. Now, the thing about the murder hornet, it's coming over from Asia and has now been found for the first time in America. Now, some conspiracy theorists out there are saying, is this a surprise from Kim Jong-un? First he gives us the coronavirus, and now
they call it the Asian hornet?
That's racist.
That's what Trump will do, right?
That is racist.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
It comes from Japan, but that's not stopping some conspiracy theorists from saying, first Kim Jong-un gave us the coronavirus, and here's the second wave of a surprise. We're getting the murder hornet. Now, this is good news, this part of it. They like cool and damp climates, and so they have found them in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest, but we're not really in danger of having them down here in southern Nevada. So that's good, right?
Oh, good. I don't care about Seattle. So that's
okay.
Good, yeah.
Now, second part of this fascinating story about the murder hornets. There's an idiot. I guess he's a YouTube star, and I'll get you his name here. Nathaniel Coyote Peterson. Have you heard of him, JD? Yeah?
No, I've not.
Because I know you like to go online. He's an extreme nature TV host.
Stein's having way too much fun with this.
Nathaniel Coyote Peterson, host of YouTube show Brave Wilderness. Well, this fool decided to capture one of these murder hornets and sting himself with basically let the murder hornet sting him in the arm so he could describe just how bad it really is. And we actually have some audio of that. Sean, if you would.
Are you guys ready? Ready if you are. I'm Coyote Peterson, and I'm about to enter the sting zone with a Japanese giant hornet.
Murder hornet.
1, 2. Here we go. 3.
Wait for it.
Oh, this thing just stuck in my arm. Oh!
Holy crikeys!
Oh man, wave of dizziness really quick. Ah! Oh! Oh, searing pain. Absolute searing pain. There's where the stinger went in right there. Did you not see how slow that sting was? Oh! Oh my god.
Of course, there's video of this. You can watch it online.
Sounds like he's having labor.
Yeah, that's the producer. I know you're in pain, but you gotta describe it.
Seized up and locked in place. This is like the tarantula hawk. Look at the swelling that's beginning to form on my arm. The form is incredibly taut. About 45 seconds have gone by.
Careful not to go over the cliff edge, by the way. Let's move it over there.
Back up.
It's
You gotta tell us if you're in trouble. Are you gonna be okay?
I like the dramatic music.
Now it sounds like a porn.
Went into my arm. I had this a wave came over me and I got super dizzy.
All right.
Almost didn't feel what was happening. And then the pain just was like immediately searing.
Look at your arm. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at that. Wow. You are swelling like crazy. He's swelling up.
One second. Let's put a circle around where the
All right.
yeah, to see the progression of it.
All right, Stein, I got an idea. Okay, I got an idea. How about we do an informative video? You kick me in the nuts, and then as I'm in pain, I describe to women what it feels like. Why don't we do that?
And I'll be with the camera. Brian, I know it hurts, but you have to describe it.
It sounds like my testicles are in my abdomen. Oh!
Well, anyway, people in pain never gets old. And so I thought that you'd enjoy that.
That was kind of funny, but I think this guy's a complete idiot. But I thought it was kind of funny. All right, we got to take a break.
I really enjoyed that.
We got to take a break. We got to take a break, and when we come back, Kevin Spacey, shamed Kevin Spacey. You're not going to believe it. He's back in the news for the wrong reasons. We'll explain why coming up next. It's the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Coronavirus update. Who serves as one of President Trump's personal valets has tested positive for coronavirus.
The valets are members of this elite military unit. They're dedicated to the White House, and they work very close to the president and the first family as well. We're told by sources that the president was upset when he was informed yesterday that a valet had tested positive. The president was then tested after that. The White House says he's negative.
That's correspondent Caitlin Collins. Well, today's Labor Department report suggests that layoffs, while still breathtakingly high, are steadily declining. Still, correspondent Christina Alessi reports the number of people filing for jobless benefits last week remained high.
About 3.2 million Americans filing for initial unemployment benefits, bringing that total to over 33 million over the 7-week period.
Wall Street's up more than 1% across the board. I'm Evan Haney.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Police and fire on scene for a serious crash at Russell Road at Fort Apache Road. Avoid delays. Take an alternate routes like Tropicana, Grand Canyon Drive, or Patrick Lane instead. Also an accident on the 215 Western Beltway northbound at Far Hills Avenue. Vehicles at the exit ramp. And an accident reported Blue Diamond at Valley View Boulevard. There you could take Robindale or Serene and avoid delays that way. Pros, Lowe's is open and pro-ready with the supplies you need to make repairs during this important time. I'm John Michaels from the KDAWN Traffic Center.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Whether you enjoy classical, rock, or heavy metal, we all march to the beat of our own drummer or guitarist. That's why Views also offers you more ways to vape your way. It's available in 5 bold color options, 3 smooth tastes, and 3 nicotine levels. It's your vape, your way. Views, charge beyond. Underage sale prohibited.
Eye on Washington with Marilyn Joyce, taking Nevadans to Capitol Hill for the latest on the federal issues that matter most to you.
Eye on Washington, Saturday morning at 9:30 on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Sam and Ash are committed to doing what's right for our community here in Las Vegas, especially during these challenging times. With so many of us stuck at home and so many local restaurants in need of patrons, Sam and Ash are awarding a gift card each day for a dinner at one of our great local restaurants. It's the Winner Winner Local Dinner Giveaway. Go to samandash.com for more details. That's samandash.com. Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Welcome back to the show. Coming at you on a Thursday. A coronavirus Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. We're all still in coronavirus craziness, going crazy, but trying to make the best of a very, very difficult situation that everybody's going through, quite frankly. I never really like it when people would compare the struggles, the trials and tribulations of what we're going through with this coronavirus, maybe from a financial standpoint, maybe from a health standpoint, to those child molesters that are now out of work because they decided to molest children. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about Kevin Spacey. I'll be the first one to admit, I think he's a great actor, and I think he's got a lot of wonderful movies. But
Unbelievable actor.
But back in October of 2017, if you recall, actor Anthony Rapp accused Spacey of making a sexual advance towards him back in 1986 when he was 14 years old. Numerous other men have come forward alleging that Spacey had sexually harassed or assaulted them back in December of 2018. Spacey was actually charged with an incident assault and battery in relation to an accusation by anchor woman Heather Unruh that he sexually assaulted her 18-year-old son. By July 2019, the criminal charges had been dropped. But I think it's, if you want to speak about someone who might be worse than a sexual deviant, actually somebody that is a pedophile, I believe it to be Kevin Spacey. So now Kevin Spacey is doing something that I thought that was even below him. He's comparing those are struggling, throughout this coronavirus pandemic because so many people are out of work, because so many people are struggling. He's comparing your situation to his situation of being out of work because he is a rapist and a pedophile. Have a listen to this audio. This is unbelievable, folks. This is Kevin Spacey in his own words. Take a listen to this.
I don't often like to tell people that I can relate to their situation because I think it undermines the experience that they may be having, which is their own unique and very personal experience. But in this instance, I feel as though I can relate to what it feels like to have your world suddenly stop. And so while we may have found ourselves in similar situations, albeit for very different reasons and circumstances, I still believe that some of the emotional struggles are very much the same. And so I do have empathy for what it feels like to suddenly be told that you can't go back to work or that you might lose your job and that it's a situation that you have absolutely no control over.
Okay, first of all, you pedophile dope. You're telling me you didn't have control over your own sexual feelings when you decided to hit on teenage boys? Give me a break. How does he have the balls to even say something like that publicly, let alone privately? Many of these people, by the way, probably all of them, that are struggling financially because of this pandemic, this wasn't their choice. It wasn't because of their behavior. It wasn't because of something they did. You sexually assaulted children. It's the reason why nobody in Hollywood wants to go anywhere near you. What's next, Kevin? Do you want to compare Harvey Weinstein to people in this coronavirus pandemic? Should we see? What do you want, Kevin? You want sympathy? You bastard. You belong behind bars. You're a child molester. That's what you are, Kevin. You also happen to be an Oscar-worthy actor. You're a pedophile. And you want to show empathy? Why don't you show empathy for the children you touched underneath their clothing? Why don't you feel empathy for them? Why don't you feel empathy for your former massage therapist who you tried to have sex with? Why don't you feel empathy for all the children? And God knows how many other children you've molested in your life. But you want people to feel empathy for you, and you want to make an analogy to what you've gone through and not being able to work because nobody wants to go anywhere near you because you're a disgusting child molester. You want to compare that to those? And by the way, Kevin Spacey has boatloads of money. Boatloads of money. He is set for generation and generation over all the money he has made in his acting career. Don't you dare compare your situation to those businesses, those business owners, those people that lost their jobs. I don't care where they work at. Could be casino dealers, could be a waiter or a waitress, anybody. Don't you dare compare your situation to what these poor people are going through throughout the country. How disgusting is Kevin Spacey as a human being? Not just for what he's done to these kids, which, by the way, I believe all of them. Not just for that. But now he found it in himself. He had this wonderful idea. You know what? Let me get back in the public eye. How can I get back in the public eye? I could really empathize with all these people losing their jobs. Geez, the same thing happened to me because I was touching children's
I've got a
penises.
great idea. I'm going to take my perversions, my self-inflicted results that have destroyed my extremely successful career, that have ruined my reputation with the entire world due to my perversions, and I'm going to relate those to the things that the majority of the country, not the world basically is going through right now, that outside of maybe a couple of scientists in China and the Chinese government was not their fault.
I got an idea.
None of this is self-inflicted. We didn't ask for this. We didn't earn this. We didn't make any crazy decisions like trying to touch a 15-year-old boy to get in this situation. It's not even remotely the same conversation.
JD, I got an idea. I got a career idea for Kevin Spacey. You ready for this? Here's what I think. If there are any directors or agents out there listening, I have a role that I think Kevin Spacey should play. Force Kevin Spacey to gain 300 pounds, have him play Harvey Weinstein, and then when the movie's over, let him die of a heart attack. I think that's what we should do. What do you think about that?
I think that would do really well.
I think it would.
I like it. It's not a terrible idea.
Let him gain 300 pounds.
They're both bald, basically bald.
Both sexual assaulters.
Yeah,
right?
We'll have no issue actually acting, considering that's who he is as a human being.
Yeah. Kevin, if you want to get back to work, stuff your face with about 10,000 carbs every day, get really, really fat, look like Harvey Weinstein, which you'd have to really batter yourself up to look like.
You don't need the walker. You can use the same step that you use for Kaiser Sose.
Yeah, I think
in Usual Suspects.
On top of the fact that he's a great actor, I think he would play Harvey Weinstein very well because he's very good at playing the part of a man who sexually assaults people. In this case, it would have to be boys, not women in Hollywood. And then force him not to lose the weight and let him die of heart disease, for all I care, because anybody who molests children, in my opinion, should not be alive. So that's if you're a director right now, throw that pitch to Kevin Spacey. You might want to leave out the death part.
And he didn't just molest children on his own. He also used those underground organizations like Bryan Singer, who was the first ever Spider-Man director, was a part of, and there was kind of a Hollywood cult, if you will, that had this particular home where they would have these boys go to this home, and rumor has it that Kevin Spacey was actively involved in that, and it was basically trafficking of young boys throughout the industry, and having all these sexual deviants, basically use them for their own personal satisfaction.
Can you imagine if you're a professional masseuse in Hollywood and you have some private clients and you're a straight man? It doesn't really matter if you're gay or straight when it comes to sexual assault, but just hypothetically speaking, you walk into Kevin Spacey's home, very famous actor, but you're professional. You're just doing your job. You're giving the man a massage. And all of a sudden, Kevin Spacey takes off his towel and starts fondling you. I mean, what do you do? Do you beat the crap out of him? I mean, I don't know. Like, how do you react to that? Do you call the police? What do you do in that situation? You have a very powerful guy, a celebrity, who, out of nowhere, and that's, by the way, his masseuse has died recently, sadly, but his masseuse did some interviews and said that's exactly what happened.
And, of course, you're honored, to be able to be in the same presence as someone like that, not knowing what his actual intentions are. So I mean, that is a tough situation. If it was me, I would probably resort to violence.
All right. Well, remind me never to give you a massage.
What do you think you would do, Brian?
Remind me never to give you a massage.
You know, under those circumstances. I mean, this guy's. So you're telling me that he's groping me while I'm giving him a massage?
I'm just saying.
I
wouldn't grope you. I wouldn't.
No, but hypothetically, I mean, that Kevin Spacey is groping me while I'm giving him a massage. What? I mean, I don't know. That's a tough situation.
I wish some of my dates would go that way. I'm not. No, that's a horrible joke. But no, in all seriousness,
that's self-inflicted.
If somebody did that to me, and first of all, I call me. You could call me homophobic if you like. I'm not. I just would prefer not to get a massage from a man. I don't want a man touching me all over my body. That's just me, personal preference. That's number one. And number two.
No, but if you're the masseuse though, giving him a massage,
I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that either.
And he tries to sexually, fondle you. How would you react to it? I said I would probably most likely resort to violence because it would be such a weird thing for me.
Either that or call the police. One or the other. It's tough to prove something like that, but I would probably threaten to call the police, and or I would expect him to open up his pocketbook and pay me a lot of money to keep my mouth shut. One or the other, but either way, I would.
So you would extort him?
If I had to, yeah.
Okay.
I absolutely would.
All right,
I absolutely would. The man's got a lot of money. Absolutely.
And the only reason that Spacey's probably not in prison right now is that the charges were dropped in Massachusetts because the accuser took the fifth on the stand.
Right.
And I think a couple of others accusers died. Actually, passed away.
Yeah, I find that extremely odd. Don't you?
Many accusations, including, like you said, 14-year-old Anthony Rapp back in the day.
Just rot in the jail cell, Kevin Spacey. Just go away. Or play Harvey Weinstein and then die of heart disease for all I care. Just go away.
Have you watched any Kevin Spacey movies, again, that you've seen before since all this happened?
I haven't seen 7 in over a decade, but it was on, I think it was on HBO last night. So that's a great movie, by the way. That is a wonderful movie. I do have a Kevin Spacey autographed 8x10 photo. I think the only reason why he signed it and sent it over to me was because I was a little mailed kid. I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm being serious. I was a 12-year-old boy. That's right up his alley.
There's actually a very, very good chance of that.
I was a 12-year-old.
80-20.
Yeah, I was a 12-year-old boy. Thank God I didn't send him my picture. He would have had me over for drinks.
Most likely.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Personally, I think you're a sexual deviant, Brian.
That is true. I am a sexual deviant. But as a 12-year-old boy, I was
different
not.
kind.
As a 12-year-old boy and as a 40-year-old man, I've never done
it. I've watched Usual Suspects. I've watched Seven. I've watched American Beauty, and I've watched House of Cards since this happened. So I'm still a Kevin Spacey fan as an actor. And I admit that. He's a very, very good actor. At least he was.
I love it how our producer, by the way, is cracking up when we get a caller calling me a sexual deviant, and he decides to throw that in there. I think that's very...
Personally, I think you're a sexual deviant, Brian.
I am, by the way. She's right. I am.
If that played 4 more times a show, I would be a very, very happy guy.
Kevin Spacey, die of heart disease. Just go away. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, time for some hate mail.
If you like that audio.
If you like hate, time for a little bit of hate mail coming up next. It is the Vegas Take. We'll take a quick break, be back right after this with the hate mail on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, K-Dawn.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. K-Dawn.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Thanks for joining us. Just wanted to make sure the producer put the mic on. Mr. Producer, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. Is the mic on? Am I on the radio now? Am I on the air? Mr. Producer, I'm Mark Levin. Mr. Producer? Mr. Producer? What are you doing, Mr. Producer? You're a sexual deviant. Okay, I don't think Mark Levin's.
We're working, just so people know, we're sitting in Chris Wynn's house. Well, people know that. The little machine that makes this go is called a Comrex. It's about, what would you say, JD? About a foot by 12 by 6, I would say.
Well, like inches?
Yeah. This little machine, this little crappy machine that works half the time. Yeah, and then a little attachment for a Wi-Fi that buzzes in our headphones. That
so basically,
it costs about $4,000. So anyway, that's what we've been doing since March 16th.
So it works half the time. So basically, what you're saying is it works just. It's very similar to your sex life. Is that what you're saying?
It's basically Brian's penis. It works half the time.
Okay,
yeah.
very, very funny. I already made that.
Yeah, it's your penis.
I already made a penis joke. You can't make two penis jokes in the same segment. Anyway, we are back here on the Vegas Take on a Thursday, and this is one of Jason Stein's favorite segments. You can see it's the only time of the day he actually does smile. I will say that. He doesn't smile very often, but when he does smile, it is during.
It was pretty funny when JD
segment.
knocked the orange juice over.
Yeah, he did knock my orange juice
funny.
over.
I smiled then.
That was great. Appreciate that. All right, so Mr. Stein, it is now time for the hate mail segment of the day. And by the way, if you're wondering where we get this hate mail from, it is from our YouTube page, which is The Vegas Take. Please subscribe to The Vegas Take YouTube page. We have over 1,000 subscribers already, and we appreciate your support there. Also, social media, I might as well plug that. Twitter, at The Vegas Take. We post all of our segments on Twitter. Also, of course, as I mentioned, the YouTube page. So if you missed any of our show, and how dare you if you did, but if you did miss any of our show, you can. We podcast everything, every minute of our show.
And if you want to feel closer to Chris Wynn actually runs our Twitter page.
Our social media, doesn't he? He runs our social media.
He will respond to all comments.
Yes, he will. As usually do I as well. All right, Mr. Stein, it is time for our hate mail segment of the day. Go for it, my friend.
We start off today's hate mail segment with a comment about your golf game, Brian.
Oh, good.
Viewer writes, Brian cheats at golf. I heard he puts chapstick on his clubs before he swings. What does that mean?
He's crawling off the wrong alley there, because I actually played college golf and I'm a scratch golfer, and you guys can attest to that.
What does that mean, chapstick? Is that supposed to help your swing? I've never heard of that.
It's a stupid comment. I have no idea what he's talking about. I've never heard of that before in my life. I have never heard of that before in my life. Go ahead. That's not even worth commenting on. Next. Next
comment. Why is anyone even listening to this fraud, Brian? I can't stand him. # get Brian Shapiro off the air.
It's so the irony that the guy is saying, why is anybody listening to him, yet he is listening and taking the time with his little Trump hands to comment on it. I find that to be very funny.
I think it's a she.
Oh, it's a she. Well, I don't care. You know what that's like saying? Why would anybody eat these burgers while he's got a mouthful of burger? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Why would anybody drive this car when you're driving the same car that you're actually making fun of? The irony, folks, it's funny to me. Go ahead, Stein.
Breaking news for political junkies who care about this sort of thing. Justice Department dropping case against Michael Flynn.
Yeah, I don't care about Michael Flynn.
Care.
No.
But I'm sure Sean Hannity, who comes up after us, will have
I'm sure they'll lead with
wall-to-wall coverage.
I'm sure they'll lead with this and talk about James Comey. I'm sure they will.
JD cares.
Go ahead, Stein.
Okay, next comment. And this is, we actually had a few about Chris Wynn today. This one says, I'm president. This is someone who actually called themselves Chris Wynn. So he's got a troll. Chris has a troll now. I'm president of the official Chris Wynn fan club. I sell Chris Wynn t-shirts, posters, bobbleheads, refrigerator magnets, coffee mugs, action figures, mouse pads. You name it, I got it. Hit me up.
It's actually pretty funny. I like that. I like that. JD, you know you don't have a microphone and nobody can hear you. Go ahead. Give him the microphone.
I like that. Chris Wynn's specialty items. The question is, what's his logo look like? I don't think he has one yet. You better make one for him. And Chris is going to trademark it.
Well, somebody could come up with a logo.
I would consider that hate mail, because this person is clearly being sarcastic.
Yeah, I would think it's a little bit of sarcasm.
Next comment. I haven't seen Chris Wynn's roommate. I wandering aimlessly around the kitchen in the last few days. Was it a lover spat? Antifreeze in his Gatorade?
Chris does have several roommates here. They are wandering around from time to time, but I will say this: they are good guys. They are good dudes, and it's fun to come over here.
Okay, but they are just making fun of us.
Of course.
Okay, another comment. Seeing Chris in the background, Chris Wynn, reminds me of a toddler in his playpen watching his siblings play a video game.
That's kind of funny. That's actually very.
He said that's
actually very.
He said that's true.
That's my favorite one so far. That's a good one.
And one last one regarding Chris. Chris, I'm at Arville and Jones in the parking lot of Deja Vu Emporium. May I have the address where you guys are at? I have some homemade cupcakes for the guys. Thanks. And something tells me that those cupcakes would make us violently ill.
That's pretty funny, actually. The comments about Chris Wynn are much more funnier than the comments about me. I have to say. Keep up the Chris Wynn comments. I enjoy those a lot more than mine. Go ahead, Stein. You have anything else?
Yeah, I got a few more.
All right.
Brian Shapiro talking about the way Trump treats people is the ultimate hypocrisy. Nobody treats people worse than Brian.
All right, so basically, please give me a moment in my life where I have ever gone after a POW, ever gone after a prisoner of war because they were captured. Please give me a moment in my life, by the way, not just this radio show, I'm saying my life, where I've ever gone after somebody because of the color of their skin. Please give me a moment in my life where I said there were good people on both sides, where you had literally white supremacist Klan members on one side of the aisle. Please give me a moment in my life where I actually cheated on someone that I loved, and it was unprotected with a porn star. Please give me those type of moments in my life. I would love to hear from you. Because me calling a caller a moron correlates to the President of the United States who dodged the military several times in his life and decides to go after John McCain's service to this country. Yeah, you're absolutely right, sir. That is a great correlation. Keep up the great work, my friend, and let me know next time you plan on taking off those Donald Trump knee pads, you buffoon. Oh, my God. That just, you know what? None of these comments drive me nuts, but when someone says that I treat people worse than Donald Trump, that's where I draw the line. Sorry.
And
that's where I draw the line.
In that same vein, Brian's mic needs to be turned down and the guest's mic turned up. That's who we really want to hear.
Well, what's the guest? I don't understand. Who's the guest?
Any guest.
So
they're saying they'd rather listen to a guest than you.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That's fair. Yeah. I wonder which guest he wanted us to tune up.
I don't think it matters.
No, I wonder who he was talking about. I wonder who that was. Maybe it was Brady.
Next comment, next viewer. Brian is an absolute hack. I like that. Right.
That's a good one.
Right.
Hacker.
To the point.
Hacker on
no,
the golf course.
A hack.
Oh, a hack. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's fair.
Like a political hack.
Oh, a political hack.
Like a blowhard.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm
like
sure this
stubborn blowhard.
I'm sure this guy
relies on talking points.
When it comes to me, I'm sure this guy would love to use that term. Blowhard. Yeah,
opinions.
I agree.
Only doctors, because doctors are never wrong, and medical malpractice is not the third leading cause of death in the United States for the last 10 years.
What does that have to do with me being a hack? I don't understand. I'm confused.
And finally, another comment right to the point that I enjoy. Can I volunteer to kick Brian? Which I wouldn't mind.
Where's the kick? It depends where the kick is.
Yeah, well.
Where will the kick actually be? By the way, we're reading these comments off of our YouTube page, which is The Vegas Take. So we ask that you subscribe to that. My personal Twitter account. I do accept private messages, by the way. I'm Brian Shapiro at JD Sharp. Our social media, our YouTube page, of course, is The Vegas Take. Our website is thevegastake.com. So I don't talk about that enough. I don't share our social media.
He does enjoy unsolicited phallus photos.
That's definitely not true. I don't want to see your photos. That's not true.
Good news, guys. I found my hate mail from yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I put it on a Word document, and it actually got saved. So I have more.
Oh, I can't.
Which is good because
aren't we out of time?
Nah, we got.
All right, go ahead.
We got like 3 minutes here. Didn't Brian used to do pornography under the name Ginger Vitus?
That's kind of funny. That's creative. See, I don't mind creativity.
I think that's kind of it's a cross. What's the word I'm looking for?
You know what's really sick though? The fact
a cross insult between your ginger red hair and the fact that your mouth is so disgusting that you have gingivitis.
I don't have gingivitis, but you know what's so sick about this whole thing? That this guy actually thought to himself what I would look like naked. He actually thought about that, and he thought about me as a porn star. That's actually more disturbing than what he said. In my personal opinion, there's somebody living in their mom's basement that's watching our show on YouTube that's thinking, a male, that's thinking about what I look like naked. That's disturbing to me.
Next comment. Brian is just jealous that Trump can get more arse than him.
Arse?
Women, ass.
Well, I mean, I haven't married a hooker, so I mean, that's. I'll go with that to start. So go ahead, Stein. Next
view. I made out with Chris Wynn once at Station Casino.
Did you? Is that a woman or a man?
No, I didn't.
Who said that? Is that a woman or a man?
I don't know. I don't have it here,
must
but
have been
it doesn't matter. A man could be a woman could be a man. That person claims that they made out with Chris Wynn at the station casino.
Was it at a caveman Keno machine? Go ahead, Stein.
Could be. How cute. They've taken over Chris's apartment. Won't let him be on the radio today, so he's being all vocal on YouTube.
By the way, this isn't an apartment. This is a home.
Yeah.
A nice home, by the way, with a nice pool in the backyard. Go ahead, Stein.
Why don't you have Michael Avenatti on your show anymore? Did he commit a crime or go to jail or something? I enjoy his insight and his dreamy blue contact lenses.
Well, that's a very funny comment. Next.
All right, hang on.
Next.
JD needs to get rid of Brian. Have Brian and Douche Doug Basham have their own radio show on Saturdays. Give them the 3 a.m. time slot.
I appreciate that. I don't know. I don't think. By the way, Doug Basham is not a douchebag. He's actually a very nice guy. But the only reason why somebody would call him that is because they disagree with his politics because they have a pea brain. Go ahead, Stein. What do we got next?
I can't stand looking at Brian's clown face any longer. Hashtag get Brian Shapiro off the air now.
And this is the same person that watches
Now.
our show every
They added
day.
a now
This
to
is the same person that has a poster of me in their bedroom that pleasures themselves to me every single day. I'm not changing what I look like. I'm going to stay the same. You just keep having fantasies, sexual fantasies about me in the bedroom. Sir, ma'am, whoever you are.
And finally, a comment about our environment here, our environs, I guess you could say. I'll bet those cheetah couches have seen more action than Hefner's grotto.
I don't know about
Chris
that.
Wynn's nodding his head. Yes.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I do like this couch very much so. In fact, I need to wear my leopard pants tomorrow on the show. I do have some leopard pants. Maybe I'll wear
leopard.
Yeah.
Thong.
No, that's not going to happen.
No, you're not going to do that.
I don't wear thongs. That's not going to happen.
Stein, honest question: when can we do the show outside with our shirts off?
That's not going to happen.
I'm ready
either.
for it.
No,
I'm
that's
ready
not
for it.
happening. No, nobody wants to see that.
I was literally born ready for it.
Nobody wants to see that unless
I
you're
was born ready to do the show outside in Chris
No.
Wynn's backyard, overlooking the pool with my shirt off.
Unless you have some attractive women that want to be topless with us, that's the only way I agree to it. So it's on you now. It's on you. I'm
Okay,
just saying.
so when we can do a show outside, I'll take my shirt off.
No,
and you can be a coward, and you can keep your shirt on. I like
so you're trying to tell me you want to see me with my shirt off. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think the hate mail would go way up. So I'm for it.
What's next? My co-host is going to take me to Chippendales? I mean, I don't understand. What's next? I don't understand what's
We
going
got
on
about
here.
a minute left in the show. I want to promote a couple of things. First of all, 3 p.m. Steve Sisolak expected to announce that we are going to be going into phase 1 within the next week. We will be covering that tomorrow. We also got some very interesting information about Trump's dirty little trickster, Jacob Wohl. We've had him on the show before. Apparently, there was a woman who came out and said Anthony Fauci raped her. Now she's saying that Jacob Wohl and his cohorts actually paid her to say that. So we'll probably get into that tomorrow. Probably some more on the Ahmaud Arbery case as well, Brian.
Wow, shocker. You mean that Jacob Wohl and his father are conspiracy theorists and lying scumbags? Wow, what a shocker. Geez, I never knew that before. I've been calling that idiot a conspiracy theorist forever, and he's just a scumbag, him and his father. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, it's been a fun show. As I mentioned, if you missed anything, check us out on Twitter at The Vegas Take or our YouTube page, The Vegas Take, if you missed any of our show. We podcast everything on there. The man himself, Sean Hannity, will be coming up next, folks. Have a very safe afternoon. We'll catch you tomorrow.